Hello, and welcome to the Split Take podcast. This is the first episode in a long time. Chandler and I think we recorded probably 6 months ago. So thank you to anyone who is still around and willing to listen to us ramble about movies. This is, of course, our very special yearly episode where we talk about the previous year with all of our fellow filmmaker friends and family and friends of the show. Brandon Sonju, DJ, and Nick Johnson are joining us. Say hello, everyone.
When do your friends get here?
Yeah, I don't have any. It's just people I picked up on the street to talk about movies.
Oh, all right.
Anyway, so the five of us will be talking about the best movies of 2023. With each passing year, this tradition has become more complex, with the runtime creeping into wildly unwieldy territory. Last year, I think it was 3 hours, 15 minutes total, spread out over 3 episodes. This year, we're going to try to get that down. If you look at the runtime of the video you're watching, you will be able to know if we succeeded in that endeavor or not. Hopefully, we did. But to that end, I've enlisted Nick to kind of step in and act as the moderator of this episode. So after this intro, I will be taking a step back and letting him direct the conversation and our discussion. For the most part, all of our top 10 lists and the year 2023 in review lists have been hidden from each other. So we don't really know what our order and ranking of movies is. So Nick has compiled a aggregated list. We've all shared our lists with him, and so he's kind of like used a methodology, which he will explain, to rank all of the movies and kind of put them all into a list that will help us keep our discussion down to a minimum of 10 movies. So we're going to discuss those 10 movies, and then we're going to discuss if we collectively agree with that aggregated list and if we want to make any changes to it. And by the end of this episode, we'll have an official split take top 10 movies of 2023. So that's the deal. Chandler and I are also planning on resuming our journey through the BFI list and publishing Split Take regularly again. So be sure you're subscribed, all of that, if you'd like to hear more of our dumbass opinions. With that being said, I will pass it over to Nick, who will host the remainder of this episode.
All right, so this year doing it a little bit differently. This year we're doing an aggregate list. So I got everyone here, including myself's top 20 of the year in order. Separated them by points. So I literally did it first place. A first place placement was 10 points. Down to 1. Any inclusion at all was 1 point. So even if you were 20th on the list, you still got a point. Obviously, a lot of films got more points than others, and that's kind of the point. 42 total films between the 5 of our lists. 22 of them were picked by at least 2 people. 18 were 3 or more. There was only 4 films on the whole list that was on everyone's list. I didn't know if we wanted to do a little exercise where someone could potentially guess what they were. I don't know how many people actually looked. I sent the film list to everybody yesterday. I don't know how many actually looked.
I can
What do you think,
guess.
Sanj?
I can remember a few of them.
That's correct.
Oppenheimer,
That is correct.
Killers of the Flower Moon,
That is correct. What is the fourth one?
Holdovers, and
It's
John
not
Wick
John
4.
Wick 4. Jacob, I actually talked
What?
about this, so Jacob doesn't get to know doesn't get to guess.
Zone of
It
interest.
is Zone of Interest. Oppenheimer, Holdovers,
Oh, it's Zone of Interest.
Killers of the
I
Flower
should've-
Moon. Those only 4 we all had. Five different
Wow,
number one
okay.
picks. Everyone had a different best film of the year.
And the interesting thing...
I don't remember Zone
One-
of Interest being my top
Wow.
20.
I was not expecting that. There was...
Yeah, unfortunately, it was. Okay.
There was a... with these
17. Okay.
with these films that like all of these films were included on our lists, but just because they were included doesn't mean they're necessarily in the top 10.
Correct.
Once we aggregate all the lists, because like Chandler said, he has a very cringe opinion about one particular film. But we'll leave that.
There was a couple tiebreakers, so obviously it was that point
I don't know
system.
which one
But a
he's referring
couple,
to.
there was a point system, but a couple of them did have the same amount. So the tiebreakers were number of placements, so how many people actually had it, and then if that was still an issue, then it was the highest placement. So if someone had it at
the median
number
or
1,
whatever. Yeah.
that took precedent over the other film whose highest placement was 4, or so on. That only happened in a couple instances, and I'll bring that up as we go through the list. the other caveat we did make was we removed any films that made it into the list that were only on one person's list. Unfortunately, DJ took the
I
brunt
already
of
know.
that.
Well,
Yeah.
if I remember
Yeah.
correctly, they didn't make it
No,
onto
no,
the
it
top
did. It
10
did. It
list.
did.
It was just the honorable mentions.
I
Oh, it
believe
did?
so. I believe
Because I
the
ranked it so
film.
high.
I guess we will reference it. Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning would have been
Yeah.
number 9 if this caveat was not added. And it's an aggregate list, so although I apologize to DJ, it did feel right that at least 2 people had it on their list to make contention. I
I'd be
wanted to
so
push it to
much
3 to
more
remove
angry if
another
it was my
list
number
that we'll
one,
talk
but it's
about,
not.
another film we'll talk about soon. But Jacob didn't allow me with that one. So, what were you gonna? Oh, go ahead.
No, I made a fight. Well, not a fight, but I took a stand on a film which I do not like, and I allowed it to go through because this is an aggregate list. It's not
Yeah.
about what I think.
So
It's
just
about what all of us think. I will also make mention that there was another film on my list that Chandler purposely, because Chandler hates me
I've actually
personally,
heard a lot of
he did
people
not
say
include
that.
in his
Chandler does
top
not
10.
I'm following your rules.
So Perfect Days. No, you are not. Perfect Days,
Yes, 'cause
which
this
by
is
all
when I
accounts is
saw
a
it.
2023 film. It's not about when you see films. I mean,
Oh, this is about when it come
I
out?
just-
Because it came out when I
It's
saw
a
it.
2022
here.
through 2024 list. Okay, it's a 3-year list.
Okay, there we go.
Perfect
It's a
Perfect
3-year
Days
list.
was released to the public in New York City in 2023. It was released somewhere in America in 2023. So, as you may have noticed, Chandler and Sonju are in the same place. We've been having some technical difficulties. Now they are sharing a computer, so we'll see if this ends up working out. Anyway, back to you, Nick.
It wouldn't be the Split Take podcast without technical difficulties.
Every
Just
year.
a hard jump cut to 4 cameras instead of 5.
Looks better probably anyway.
Okay, so with all that being said, you guys understand how the aggregate system worked. There were a couple tiebreakers that we will talk about when they come up, but we're going to just get right into it. We have the first honorable mention, so technically number 13 on the list, but because it is not in the top 10, called it an honorable mention. It was on 4 different lists. At its highest placement, it was number 6. It averaged about an 11.5 placement.
Can we
Dude.
guess?
Would
Is
you
that-
guys like
is that
to
something we
guess?
can guess?
If you guys want to guess,
I
you
know
can.
it is.
Killers of the Flower Moon.
No,
Is
Do
my
you know
guess.
what it is?
No,
Pass
there's
the
Number
It's
low.
13
It's Blackbird.
on the list is Spider-Man Across
Oh.
the
Oh, wow.
Spider-Verse. Good movie.
Good movie.
I believe the highest person on their list was me. This is a good ass movie. I think it's significantly better than the former film. I know the Beck boys don't agree necessarily, but while I think the first film was characters were a little bit gimmicky, a little bit pawny, like here's the funny Spider-Man, and they didn't really have a lot of character. I think this film took the opportunity to flesh out a lot of the Spider-Mans, make them more interesting, more grounded, more reasonable. And I think that in general led to a significantly more interesting film from a character perspective, in my opinion.
I feel like
I know
most people would
Jacob, but
agree.
yeah, I was going to say Jacob. I know had a good opinion on.
I
this
just
as
have
well.
to say, I find this very funny because Nick said he didn't really want to talk about any of the movies, and the first thing he does as soon as the movie is mentioned is he starts talking about it.
Well,
which-
I just
I'm
meant
not
I would,
complaining.
I
love
would,
it.
I'm the assistant director, but I'm also a guest.
Yeah.
Well, to
This
be
is-
fair, he
I-
should
I
talk
had the
about
high-
it because
If I
it's-
had the highest placement, if I had the highest
exactly.
placement of it, I
You're the
got to
highest
talk
placement.
about it. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Great. No, I agree 100% with everything Nick said. It's a fantastic film, very creative, and just really a step up in every regard from the first one, and just so much fun. And I don't know. I really should have watched it a second time, but I didn't get around to
I
it.
agree.
Where did you place it on your list?
I had it at number 10.
It's 10 on mine too.
Yeah, DJ and Jacob had it at 10, and someone had it at 20. It was Sonju. Chandler did not enjoy the film.
Wait, is that
It's
true?
at 24.
Chandler doesn't enjoy movies.
Oh, it's
As
been
we know.
moved down. It was
Chandler,
at
the one
20
with
for
10 5-star movies.
It's a good movie. For the record, I
Yeah.
think it's a good movie.
I really
It's a good
liked it.
movie.
It's a good.
I
half
also
of the
really
first
liked it.
movie.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Seems we're
I
all
like the
in
first
agreement.
one better.
The
I like
next-
the first one better. But anyway, keep going.
Yeah, the Beck boys like the first one better, but
It's got
that's
fucking-
cringe.
Just know it's about the
Um,
money, Spidey.
Speaking of films the Beck boys like better, our second
is that
honorable
joke?
mention peaked
No.
at
No.
a 4 on someone's list, and it was pretty
I've been
lukewarm
saying
for the
top.
rest of the group. But I will allow,
Oh.
I believe, Chandler to take the reins on this one. This is a little film called. Oh no, never mind. This is Fallen Leaves.
Oh,
I
What?
introed the wrong film.
gosh.
What?
This film, Fallen Leaves, got a 6 and a 7 on someone's list.
Oh,
I believe
yeah.
Jacob
It's a
had it at 6.
on mine.
No, I
Jacob?
had it at 7.
Oh, well, who had it at 6? Was
I did.
that
Chandler.
Mhm.
Chandler? Chandler, Fallen Leaves. What's so good about this shit?
I think it's just because when you contrast it with so much of what is like great about this year, things like Killers of the Flower Moon and Oppenheimer that are like just fucking huge, expensive, cinematic, gigantic movies, and Fallen Leaves is just so simple. Every shot is just simply composed. It looks like a painting. Every single one of them. It's these complicated lighting schemes that just look. I don't know. It's just cute. It's about Finnish people and their funny little world. It's 82 minutes. it's so brisk, so easygoing. I don't know. It just felt like a nice change of pace considering what else came out this year.
Sure.
It's got
I
karaoke,
would echo
which
that,
automatically another star for karaoke.
And a
scenes.
dog.
And a dog.
It's got karaoke and a dog.
Mhm.
Cute.
Dog's
dog.
important.
Yeah.
And the strangest Jim Jarmusch call.
Oh,
Yeah.
The-
The reference is
Yes.
pretty strange.
They're friends, but it is
I would
still funny.
echo everything that Chandler said and add that it is it's a movie that is very romantic in kind of like a weird subtle way, but it's also this great little call against like nihilism, and I feel like that's a big strong undercurrent of the film because throughout the movie
those
you have these
Ukraine
broadcasts of like the Ukraine stuff and like the alcoholism and these people who are just like on the verge of giving into despair, and it's
And
just a
getting
kind of
old.
sweet wholesome movie about finding connection and meaning in a world that is trying to destroy those things.
And I will say too, I will say definitively, for me, it's the best looking movie of the year.
Definitely up there.
Best
Just-
looking movie of the year, you think?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, obviously, something like Oppenheimer also looks really good, but I just like the simplicity. The lighting, like I said, is nice, and there's weird little shadows that kind of come out of nowhere, and the color's really nice, and
Yeah.
it just complements this quirky little world so well.
The
and
splotches
it
of
looks like a
light.
straight up
Yeah.
80s movie.
Yeah,
Speaking
it-
of quirky little world, Fallen Leaves was tied with another film that I introed accidentally before it. This film did get a higher spot because of our tiebreaker rules. They were both at 10 points. But a
Alphabetical,
little
too.
film called Blackberry had a higher
Nice.
placement on Chandler's list.
I'd like to think this is the result of a year-long's propaganda.
No, well, it is
I'd
a
like to
result of
think-
a year-long propaganda. The fact that
I'd
it
li-
didn't make the top 10.
I'd like to think
Mhm.
I didn't think it would even get here, so I think I'd like to think I willed it into existence.
I think it's worthy of discussion. I don't think it's necessarily Chandler holds in a higher regard than everybody else.
I do.
What was
love
it
this
on
It has
movie.
one of the
else's?
highest. It has one of the highest ranges on the entire list. It had a placement at 4 and a placement at 20.
Nice.
So it had a range of
420?
16. It had an average of 15th on the list, which is not very good.
Pretty badass.
But I mean, Chandler was kind of the champion of Blackberry, and that kind of showed in the list.
I couldn't manage to squeeze it in, sadly.
all I look for in a movie is like identity. Someone at the helm. And with so many movies taking this boring corporate biopic route, it's become a genre in of itself. But the difference between something like Blackberry and something like Air is that at the end of Air, you're like, oh, I should go get some Jordans. No one wants a Blackberry at the end of this, and it's more or less taking the biopic formula or the corporate biopic formula and then using that to sort of just like demonstrate how the entire like capitalistic system is just like paved with these little footnotes of failure. And I love seeing it all come apart. I love the Canadianness of it. I love Matt Johnson. I love the score. It's so fun to watch. Again, it's like somewhat what you'd expect. I'm not saying it's like a revelatory in any way, but it's just fun as hell to watch.
It's like a Greek tragedy.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Glenn Howard's in top 3 performances.
He's so good in it. He should have been nominated.
All right. Blackberry is the last honorable mention, and that means we are officially getting into the top 10.
Wow.
And there's, I think, no better way to start
Do
it.
we want to
I know it's 10. I already know what it is.
I think I already referenced what was 10.
I already know what it is. So
Yes, there is.
it's
There's
the
only
one that I asked Nick to stand firm and not tell me anything about the aggregate list, but this was the one that I needed to know if and where it was at. And that'll probably reveal what it is.
It is the only film
It's
in the
good.
top
It's
10.
has to be.
Oh.
It's the only film in the top 10 that had 2 placements out of 5, first and 7th. It had a total of 14
First,
points, which was
Jesus.
technically a 3-way tie, but it did not win the tiebreakers. The first film of our top 10 is a 2022 film called Skinamarink.
This is
Okay,
making it
before we
nice.
start the discussion on this, I need to make the
Vetoed.
the little conversation about why this particular film is here, because we discussed it, I believe, last year on our 2022 list, because it is both a 2022 movie and a 2023 movie. I allowed Skinamarink to go through as an act of charity, and which really I shouldn't have done, because Chandler was not as generous with a little film called Perfect Days. But
Generous
here we
is
are.
weakness.
I decided to be
Generosity
magnanimous
is
and let him
weakness.
have his victory here.
It's more Sonju's
Skinamarink, which
victory.
of course was released in theater festivals and also leaked online in 2022, but it did only get a theatrical release in 2023. So choose whether you want it to be from this year or that
Well,
year.
by
but
that logic,
is-
my
we
favorite
ended up,
movie of the year is American Strain.
Good
That's
movie.
2027.
That's very different logic. Anyway, I will hand it off to Chandler, who actually likes this film.
No,
Yeah,
Sonju
Beck
talked
boys,
about it
what's
first.
so good about a slideshow of people's feet?
Kids?
This is slanderous. Well, I think it is just like transcendent filmmaking. It's something that hasn't been captured. For me, I haven't seen something like this captured on screen in any other movie. I understand why people don't like it. It is very avant-garde and weird. And if you don't buy into it, I understand. Okay, you're checked out. But for me, it was just an experience I hadn't had before, and I've watched it twice. And the second time, even after knowing, like, you could call it a gimmick or whatever, I enjoyed it more. I just feel like it creates a unique like hellscape that really like affected me, and I think it's evil as hell, and it's awesome.
Very evil.
Yeah.
I just like it because I've seen a good
It's-
amount of horror movies, and the whole point of, the aim of horror is to scare. But when you put it through the horror genre and you've seen enough of them, there like really are no surprises. There are like deviations in style that can like get to you. But I feel like this movie, more than like anything, operates on like a pure nightmare logic where it doesn't really make sense, but it like is affecting, and it doesn't do so with traditional like story structure. It does it with atmosphere and just admittedly annoying jump scares. There's one caveat to the movie. I hate the fucking jump scares, but I don't know. Movies don't scare me. Things don't scare me. The only thing that does scare me is like a scary dream, and this was a scary dream.
Yeah, it's like
I will say the
a
one
hell you
positive
can't
thing I'll
escape.
say about Skinamarink, I think, is the ending. I think the ending is dope. I think the ending is
that
really
kid got
fucking scary.
Fucked.
That kid
That
got
kid's in
fucked up.
hell.
The problem, of course, with the ending is that you have to sit through an hour 45 minutes of
You get
is
to.
long.
not much happening, and
I'm
Yeah.
surprised.
You get
nothing
so
happens.
I'm
The kid
going to
goes to
say
hell.
I was go-
I'm going to
I
say
was-
some good things. Hey, shut up.
Okay.
I'm going to say just about Skinamarink is that I
Tells
respect
the host he hired to shut up.
Skinamarink. I respect the film tremendously. Like, it has a style, and it went for it 100%. It pulled no punches, and that I think is to be respected. I'm less sure about the ultimate result in terms of like how it actually affects an audience. I felt there was a lot of atmosphere without like personality and character for me to actually like latch on and give me a reason to watch that atmosphere. But I do, um, again, respect it tremendously for doing what it did. And
Sure.
I think we're going to get similar films that do it better in the future.
You should add an E.
I was
going to
say as well, this is our lowest placement of a number one on the list. It is Sonju's number one of the year. It is not from this year, but we'll let that pass. I was going to say, DJ, did you get a chance to watch this?
Yeah, I saw it, and
I was going to say,
love
Jacob and I's opinions are very vocal about it, but I was wondering what DJ's thoughts were on it.
I think I was in on it for the first like maybe 10-15 minutes, and then it lost me. I was just getting bored and not really affected by the atmosphere. And then it got me again with that one scene with the parent that was on the bed that was like turned around. And I expected that to be the rest of the movie, and it just went kind of back to that kind of boring stuff that I couldn't really latch onto. And then I can't even remember the ending, so I don't know. I can't fidget on that part.
The ending is like that half out of focus, like in the shadow face saying "close your eyes."
Oh yeah, okay,
And
yeah, that was
the room that keeps getting larger.
And the exterior of the house where they are like in some sort of weird limbo.
That shit is creepy. It feels like a.
I'm a huge
of this,
fan of the
honest.
Paranormal Activity movies, and everyone tells me that those aren't scary at all. So I'm a very sympathetic for you guys, but I don't like it that much. I'm sorry.
I really thought Jacob and DJ were gonna have my back here.
We're gonna discuss it again next year because it'll be a yearly thing.
I tried to watch. It'd be funny. I tried to watch
It's the Super Mario Brothers 2 of cinema. Okay, so like I said, Skinamarink and two other films were in a 3-way tie.
Wow.
Skinamarink did not do very well with number of placements or highest placement. Unfortunately, it lost out on that battle. But the second of the 3-way tie is a 2023 film this time, contrary to how we've been doing that. 4 people had it on this list. Its lowest placement was a 9. Its highest placement was a 6. It is a film that we pretty much entirely agree is a wonderful film and one that you guys should have probably expected to be on here. It is Anatomy of a Fall. Anatomy of a Fall is number 9 on our list. This film is excellent.
Did DJ see
I'm
it?
not sure who had it the highest.
Yeah, I saw it.
I had it at 6.
DJ, you did get to see it? Okay.
I had it at 8.
Where'd you have it,
Yeah,
Chandler?
I had it at 9.
So I think I had it highest.
Jacob, Anatomy of a Falge.
Anatomy of a Falge. So I ended up watching this twice, and quite frankly, it was a lot better the second time because the first time it's sort of a weird mystery that is going for a lot of ambiguity. And let me just say, I will try to avoid spoilers.
Yeah, Sonj, we won't.
He can't hear you.
But
we'll try our best to avoid plot.
I wasn't going to spoil it. I'm just saying it's going for ambiguity. And the second time I felt it. The second time I felt it was a lot more effective because I wasn't looking for all of like the details and stuff of like what is actually happening. I was more paying attention to the character stuff. And the character work in Anatomy of a Fall is absolutely astounding. Just
excellent.
The performance by Sandra Hüller is great. And the fact that a lot of the character work is told through like cross-examination and you have to like pick it up through inference. And the character of the husband, you only see him in a few scenes, and everything you get from their marriage is all shown through like what's happening in the courtroom and other things. So it's all through inference. And it was just like the script work and the acting and everything is just top notch. I think Sandra Hüller's performance is the best performance of the year for me. And I think it could have been improved slightly by a shorter runtime. We'll get to that, Nick. The shorter runtime would have made it a bit more effective, but it was just really gripping and just tremendous performances all around. Not just Sandra Hüller, but everyone, including the dog.
Yeah, I think it's a film that I agree with your sentiment. I feel like on my first watch, it kind of turned into like me watching a true crime video, trying to like piece it together and figure it out, like what the answer is. And I think that unfortunately plays to its detriment a little bit. And I feel like on the second watch, I'll definitely pick up more about what you're talking about, because I think there is a lot of very interesting choices, a lot of very interesting character stuff. I think the little kid is awesome in that film. Might be the best child performance of the year. But yeah, I think it's an excellent film. I agree with all your sentiments. Did anyone else have any other thoughts?
Yeah, I agree with too. I think like I don't know how long it was through the movie where I was just kind of giving up on the true crime element of it, like trying to guess what was happening, and just went
Sure.
along with the ride. And so I was able to enjoy it on that front too. Um, just what it had to say about characters and the themes of it, I thought were great.
I just think it's interesting because as a whole, it's a pretty standard police procedural or a crime court procedural. It feels like they took an episode of something like NCIS or a Law and Order and just refined it and made it, so much more grand and epic. And it really, I'm amazed more than anything, just the pure objectivity of the movie. It's we really don't get too much like interior stuff or stuff that we're not supposed to see. So it creates this whole thing where like we have literally all the information that anyone who's outside of this incident could know, and it reflects the reality of like a courtroom decision where we will never know. We have the information and we can make inferences, and they could be guilty or not, but we will never know. And it's a simple idea just executed through the script performances and directing to absolute perfection, and to a point where it becomes something like completely, even though again on paper it's something standard, it's done so well that it just gets elevated towards something like masterful. And as far as like best directing of the year, it's up there.
It's up there. I agree.
The argument scene is perhaps, I think, the best scene all around of the year for me.
Best argument.
It's up there for me.
Since Marriage Story, I think. Best marriage arguing.
Do we want to have a quick 30-second spoiler conversation that we should remove Sonj from, or do we want to just?
I don't think we need to.
I think it's fine.
There could be there's okay.
Oh.
Yeah, we don't have to go there then.
I guess the only other thing I'd say is that I really, one detail about the film that I really appreciated was its use of language, because the movie is about like communication and trying to get people to understand like who you are, who other people are, and its use of language, specifically using like English and French, and like going back in between those two things kind of was like a little detail that highlighted the difficulty of communicating yourself and understanding others. And I thought it was pretty cool in the courtroom scene. They eventually just like dropped using the translator entirely. So it was just one person was speaking in French, another person was speaking English, and they're just having a conversation back and forth. And it was just kind of cool.
It is pretty cool. The only thing I wanted to mention was I feel like Jacob and I went to watch it, and on the way home we were having an argument because he kept bringing up points that I had for my argument in the exact opposite direction. I'm trying not to spoil it, but there's a lot of things in the film that I think can directly be correlated to one argument and the other, that I think Jacob and I ran in. I'm really trying to not spoil.
But that's what makes the movie
that Jacob
good.
and I ran into, where he was like, this happened, therefore it defends my argument. And I was like, oh no, I saw that scene as defending I think it just. But that's the ambiguity of it all makes it kind of a fun watch. Exactly. I agree. That's what I mean. I agree. I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing it's a bad thing. Anyways.
No, yeah.
Anatomy of a Fall, great film.
We can take a poll at the end on whether or not she did it.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to ask about. Okay, fine. Number 8 of the year. I said earlier this was the 3-way tie. This broke the tie of the 3 by having the highest placement. It was number 2 on someone's list. I believe it was Brandon Sonju, so Brandon knows what it is.
What?
This was one of the 4 films that was on everybody's list.
Wonka.
It's by my
Wonka.
It's by my favorite director of all time, and it's Wonka. No, it is Killers of the Flower Moon.
Hell yeah.
Hell
Killers
damn.
of the Flower Moon is number 8 on the list.
Killers
This
of
also had
Fucker
an
Cringe.
enormous variance. It was number 2 on someone's list. It was also number 20 on someone's list.
Whoa.
So we have very differing opinions on the quality of this film. I would just say we lead with Sonj because Sonj,
At
thought this was
highest.
one of the best films of the year. So why
Marty
do you see that,
defender.
Sonj?
Yeah, I'll take the brave stance of
I am
of
Marty pilled.
defending Marty. 3.5 hours
Yeah,
of
thank
Marty.
you.
I mean, come on. What else do I have to even say? The performances, all of them are incredible. I was so like emotionally affected by that third act, and I remember like when we saw it, I was like, man, 3.5 hours. Like, how am I going to feel about this? And I was locked in the entire time, leaning in the entire
Agreed.
time. Yeah, I really don't know what else I can say that hasn't been talked about ad nauseum, but I think I enjoyed the pacing of it much more than you guys did, because I remember you guys saying it was repetitive or something, but I was just so locked in, I guess, that I didn't really care. It's really that simple.
I was the guy who put it at 20, and
I was about to say, I was about to ask
I thought that was Jacob.
your Beck affiliate why he felt the opposite.
okay. 20 is still 20.
20 is still very good
Here's-
relative
yes.
to the list.
No.
I'll keep it to the positives because got to support small indie filmmakers like Martin Scorsese.
Yes, like Martin
But
Scorsese.
for someone who's made an
Yes.
entire career out of like pointing out the inherent like evil of like American culture, I think this stands as like his most damning condemnation of it. Because like, he kind of skirts around things like greed and masculinity, but this is 3.5 hours of just like, we are a nation of savages masquerading as like a higher power. So in that respect, I did fucking love it. I think I'd like it more if I saw it a second time. I'm not as into like Leo leading Scorsese movies. But I do. It is a miracle that we are still getting movies of this caliber and this scale from a person who's like 82 years old. So
Yeah.
I'll always be there day one for a Marty movie, and even the worst Marty movie, which this is not the worst Marty movie by far, is still leagues better than something like fucking Blackberry.
It is
DJ
a tremendous.
Wait, what?
achievement.
DJ, it made your top 10. Did you kind of agree with Sandra's sentiments, or?
Yeah, but I'm more on the side where it did feel a little too long, and then I did see the repetitive nature of it, although I was fine with it for the most part. I think there's a part in the middle where it just felt like I was like, okay, I'm not into this plot line as much as the rest, and it was kind of bringing it down for me. But I did not feel the pacing as much besides that one part. I also really had to fart for most of the movie, so I was like
You just
kind
done
of
it.
dying on, but
In the
yeah, I
theater?
didn't feel the length.
Just far.
Dude, it was a packed theater, so I couldn't do it. I was
You could.
thinking about it.
They
but-
wouldn't know. What are they gonna do? Kick you out?
If anything,
Wait till the
a
explosion.
packed theater is better.
Quick aside, second song of Wonka, I fucking blew it up.
That'd be
Just
really
wanted
funny
to
if you just
throw that in
farted
there.
as Lily Gladstone was like dying from poison.
That would be funny.
People would be like,
Come
what do
with
you
me.
experience? This is what her blood smells like.
Oh my God.
I do want to make a quick mention for Sanj. Just in general, about 2023, I thought this was a very strong year. And I'm just looking at my list, and there's at least 40 movies that I consider like good, decent movies. So even
Wow.
if like Chandler like had it at 20, I had it higher than that. But that's still, I would agree with the sentiment that like that's not a bad ranking whatsoever. Like I don't
Just
wish
it's
to
a
demean the
mid-ranking
film in any way by
stack.
putting
Jacob and
not
I
in my
did have
top
it in the
10.
teens. Yeah, we had it in the teens.
It's a tremendous achievement. The book is amazing, and the fact that Marty got the budget that he did and all the resources that he had and that it turned out this well is really astounding. And I don't want to take anything away from that. And quite frankly, this might be the final 10 minutes might be one of my favorite endings of movies from 2023. Just perfect ending.
Good ending.
Yeah.
It is an excellent.
And the fact that it's
ending of the film.
Marty who's the one delivering that. Because I saw an interview where he was saying he was trying to hire actors and was trying to direct them and couldn't really capture what he wanted. So then he realized like, oh, I need to do this. And I just thought that was like the perfect choice.
Makes it feel very personal
For
kinda
him to
intimate
deliver
at the
that.
end there.
Freaking white savior.
Sure.
Well, because people think it's like a meta
She got Austin Butler.
True. But yeah, and Bobby D, the depth of De Niro's like how evil he is while smiling at you is like it's so much more rich than
I know the last two De Niro Scorsese performances have been severely slept on because they're not as big as the surrounding performances. Like he's not as big as Leo, and he wasn't as big as Al Pacino. But like,
first of all, buddy,
what?
This is no Irishman performance.
No, but they're both really good and really understated.
De Niro and Irishman was transcendent.
There's like a mental fog of Dirty Grandpa that's like clouding people's judgments.
Okay, there's the Dirty Grandpa. Put that on your bingo card for the split take episode. Reference of Dirty Grandpa. We are moving on though. Shout outs to Marty. This is number 7 on the list at 15 points. It is in a tie with the film above it. It did lose out. Oh no, it didn't. This I really should have prepped a little better. This one has 15 points. Highest placement on someone's list was 3rd. But it would appear that we are pretty up in the air about how we feel about it. This is a wonderful little film about a socialist lesbian, and it is called Poor Things.
Oh.
Socialist lesbian sex worker. It's pretty excellent. It was third. I think it was 3rd on my list.
It was 6th on mine.
Chandler showed himself out because
he has not seen the film.
He has not seen the film. I think this is this might be the funniest film of the year by far. This film is like a film I didn't expect to be laughing at as much as I did. I think honestly, Willem Dafoe blowing a bubble is just cinema. I mean, I think that's just
dude. He's so awesome.
Yeah,
he is so incredible in this film. I think there's some of the best performances of the year in this film. Notably Emma Stone, which is my best female performance of the year. I think her character work as like a weird Frankenstein child monster at the beginning of the film is like I remember watching it with my girlfriend and just being in absolute awe in those scenes. Like she is just absolutely incredible. I think Mark Ruffalo is fucking
he's so funny.
One of his best performances I've seen, maybe ever, but definitely in a long time. I think if there were like in a best ensemble category in the Oscars, I think this is one of the films that would be in high contention for that. I also really like the directing. I do feel it gets a little lingery there in the middle, which I think Yorgos just loves to do. That's the Yorgos specialty, is to just have a really bad second act slump. But I think this is a wonderful little film. And who had it at a DJ?
Yeah, I had it at 6.
DJ, you had it high like me as well. Do you have any thoughts to add to that?
I agree with you. Mark Ruffalo pretty much made the movie for me. He was what I was laughing at the most, but I think Emma Stone's performance was incredible as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's
the
so
cast
pathetic.
as a whole is just amazing. Yeah. Also the visuals are so good.
I love some of the best
sets.
cinematography. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah. And I do agree, it's just a tad too long. That's probably its biggest downfall for me. But still loved it.
It was the first movie I saw. I think I mentioned this to you guys already, but I got glasses recently, and it was the first movie that I saw with my glasses. And it was like the perfect one because I was doing like the Tobey Maguire, like Spider-Man, like the entire movie. I was just like blown away. I was like, movies always look like this? And then I realized
that's awesome.
Probably not, because this movie looks incredibly it's just incredibly like unique. So it was awesome to see in the theater, and my first Yorgos movie. Regrettably.
Wow.
So I gotta go back and watch his other movies.
Definitely do.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add that I made a mistake in my top 10. I rewatched Poor Things last night, and I had Spider-Man at number 10. Had I rewatched Poor Things prior to submitting my list, I would have put Poor Things at my number 10 because it got so much better. Yeah, let's restart. Redo the list.
It technically would not have affected the list because 10 and 11 is the same amount of points, but
it's about the principle of the thing. And quite frankly, on a second watch, the pacing issues were much less of a problem. I honestly, like when I first watched it near the end, there's a sequence where she goes back to her previous husband, and I found that just like, come on, get it over with. I thought we were
That's
wrapping this up.
that was the exact part I wasn't going to reference it for spoiler reasons, but that's exactly what I was talking about.
When I was in the theater the first time, I was like, God damn, this is just like dragging. I don't know what happened, but the last night when I watched it again, it just like flew by. It was really, really great. And I mean, it's beyond creative. And I think if I remember correctly, at the it's nominated for Best Production Design at the Academy Awards. It really should win. I think
I'm sure it will.
Oppenheimer's probably tipped to win all the production stuff. And I don't wish to diminish the production design in Oppenheimer, but with Poor Things, everything on screen has been designed and created for the movie. It is just bursting with interesting things to look at and creativity, and it's just so much fun. And I will echo once again, Mark Ruffalo, my God, probably my favorite supporting performance of the year.
It's so
hilarious.
so fucking funny in this movie.
The terrible accent just makes it so much better too.
I know.
And someone pointed out that he cast all American actors to have those accents, and they're like, this has to be an intentional choice for him to like have Ruffalo change his accent and like, because it's just like it's like just off a little bit. And same with like obviously the cinematography, it's not like realistic at all. So I don't know.
No, definitely stylized.
Yeah,
I do think that it does kind of give like a Monty Python bit, like hire a bunch of American people and make them do accents that sound bad. Like I think that's kind of just funny, but it definitely feels like an intentional choice. Okay, Poor Things, great film. Chandler is the poor thing that did not watch it, but he should. Number 6, it was tied with Poor Things. This is another film that was a number 1 on someone's list. This is the second lowest ranking for a number 1 placement. It was on 4 people's lists. Once again,
Zone of interest.
Pretty lukewarm. Mackie is making an appearance in the podcast. Which is ironic because this is a little film about a person being accompanied by some kind of animal creature. It is called The Boy and the Heron.
Damn.
And this is number 6 on the list. And this is who was this? Does this sound?
It was
Chandler's.
It was Chandler's number 1 film of the year.
Oh, number 1.
Chandler David Dean. What about this Miyazaki puts it above most in your
I said in my initial Letterboxd review that there's like a classification of Miyazaki movie that to me is just like fantastical nonsense. Something like Spirited Away and Howl's Moving Castle that like I like because it's interesting and unique and there's so much life to the world that he creates, but I don't think it's in the service of something like narratively satisfying. The Boy and the Heron is that, but to a degree that I can pick up a lot on. It feels more than like The Wind Rises did, weirdly enough, like a proper swan song. The Wind Rises was like a sort of pessimistic last outing by Miyazaki. The Boy and the Heron feels a little more optimistic, although still kind of like bleak. It's got, I mean, I can see why people who could accuse this of just Miyazaki doing the Miyazaki thing. And to a degree it is that, but I prefer artists who have these ideas, these themes, these concepts that they just explore every possible way throughout their entire body of work. And this feels like he's finally understanding the role he has to play in his own life, the creator, the stacker of these blocks. So it does have like all that weird fantasy stuff towards it bent towards something that like I can wrap my head around, but there's also a lot of stuff that I can't wrap my head around, which is what I think I kind of like to be in between those things in a Miyazaki movie. But it's also just like the more recently I feel like animated movies, the more we get into like 3D stuff, you kind of just lose a little bit of that magic that goes into traditional 2D animation. And seeing a new Miyazaki in a movie theater was just like a transcendent experience. You see the fucking
Bucket
logo.
lister.
Oh my god!
Yeah.
You see the logo, and it starts so strong, and it ends so strong, and it also has like preferences, like things personally that I like. I love birds. I think birds are funny, and this movie has a fuck ton of birds. The heron.
This
the
movie might have the
parakeets,
funniest
parakeet
birds in
king.
cinema.
It's just
Robert Pattinson goblin mode.
yeah. And like when I try to think of all the things that it has in it, it feels almost like a fever dream. So I'm like, oh yeah, the same movie that have these comedic relief slasher parakeets also have a really, really sad scene where an old pelican is dying and we think he's a bad guy, but he's not, because he was put in this fantasy world to eat these little, whatever the fuck they're called. I don't know. It's like, there's a lot and I don't know how well it connects, but I also don't care, because it was just like, as a purely emotional standpoint, is the movie that I responded to the most this year. And there's a good chance it's the last Miyazaki. So Miyazaki is on my personal Mount Rushmore of directors. And the fact that he's still putting out stuff that it's like this affecting as a 103-year-old Japanese man, he's my guy.
Good chance it's his last film, my ass.
Yeah, that fucking refuses.
He's going to make 6 more. Jacob, you were the only other person that had it in your top 10. Do you share
Wow.
the sentiments?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% share the sentiments. This feels like a year of event movies where, you know,
Sure.
we got a Martin Scorsese movie who's also up there in his years. We got a Christopher Nolan movie.
Barbenheimer.
Just
Barbenheimer.
John Glazer, who doesn't release that many movies.
fucking 10 years in
and obviously Hayao Miyazaki. And this is, my God, just a beautiful. This is top tier Miyazaki for me as well. And I love the fact that like the first half of this movie, it takes so long to actually get to this fantastical world. And it feels kind of similar in the way of like Spirited Away, but like Spirited Away kind of like jumps right into that fantastical world in the beginning. This one really like holds back and it slowly introduces it into the film. And just the restraint with that made the feeling of like finally getting there and seeing just the creativity and the imagination of Miyazaki go absolutely hog wild was like a really rewarding experience. And like Anatomy of a Fall, there's like this great ambiguity in the narrative in that you're not really supposed to understand everything or like have like a literal explanation for everything. And that's kind of what made it beautiful, in that it's just this story of a kid trying to come to terms with his mom's passing in the most creative, fantastical way possible. And it's Miyazaki. It feels instantly like something you've seen 100 times in your life, just comforting, and a world you like slip right into, and is like, it's always been there.
Can I also just say,
It's great.
It has my favorite microscopic cinema moment when Maito gets to the house for the first time and he's following his aunt throughout the house and all the old ladies are following in a line. At the very tail end of it, there's like a little scene where there's just an old guy in a hallway down in the background, and the last lady in the line just kind of like waves to him and he goes, and that's it. He's the MVP of the movie. He's the little old man who lives on this property for some reason.
Little old man.
And just wants to smoke.
Just wants the ciggies.
Same.
I told you this.
I can't wait to be a
yesterday,
little old man that just wants to smoke.
True. I was telling Chandler yesterday or sometime recently, like the culmination of it afterwards was like as emotionally affecting, if not more so, than like during the movie. Like I just remember driving home and just like still having that feeling. I don't know how to explain it, but that's always a sign of like a great film.
Mm.
So I feel like it'll jump my list as I watch it again.
Same.
But yeah, it's definitely one of my.
I do
I've
want to
only
watch the
seen
Americans
5,
dub.
That's
The
Ghibli's.
English dub. I mean,
Can I also say-
American dub.
Oh yeah,
Jesus.
we should see who's I saw the dub.
Oh,
I
saw
only
the
saw
sub.
the
You saw the sub.
I
think we
saw
saw
both the dub and the sub. I saw it 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Damn.
What about you, DJ?
I have this. I only saw it once. I have it at 24. I just struggled to connect with it. I do really like the beginning and the ending, but it loses me with the fantastical stuff. Maybe I just need to live a little bit more life to understand this, but I was struggling.
Yeah,
to
I
connect with
I
it.
wasn't as high on it either. We do got to move on, but I wasn't as high on it as
Final
you guys
note,
were either. I found
Joe Hisaishi
second act's pretty
cooked.
slow.
He did cook.
Joe Hisaishi
Shouts to
cooked.
Joe.
That he did. Always does.
No, I'm good. I'm still got him.
Okay, number 5 on the list. This is the last. The top 4 was a jump in points. Like they're the definitive top 4. This is the fifth one that kind of sits with the rest of the group, and then these final 4 kind of it really jumps. It was clear they were the best 4. Well, number 5, it was on 4 people's lists. Its highest placement was number 2. But
Interesting.
everyone that had it on their list had it in the top 10. It's one of the first films that we have discussed that hit that metric, other than Anatomy of a Fall. This is called May December.
Woo! Good movie.
DJ, you haven't led a film. It was in your top 10 at number 7. How do you feel about May December?
I think it was going into it, I was thinking it was gonna be something completely different than what it ended up being. And even by the end, it was kind of like it took until I think it was the last scene where I finally understood the lead character for like who she is, and I thought that was really cool and brilliant, and made me want to like think or rewatch it again because I was just still thinking about it. And great performances all around. What's his name? The main guy in it, I think, kills it.
Charles Melton.
Yeah, Charles Melton. He was so good. And also pretty funny. There's pretty funny parts of
So
this.
fucking funny.
It's very
So funny
Yeah.
and so like depressing and
Yeah.
cringe.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
It was all
lot
of
of
those
cringe.
things at the same time.
It hit that Tar spot for me, where Tar just has this like celestial sense of cruel irony.
Yeah. The fucking scene with the other family in the restaurant. Oh my god.
God, it's hard to sit through.
Yeah.
Chandler and I went and saw it in the theater, and I'm very happy that we did, because we were like forced. When you're
Oh
at home
my
and you're watching it
God.
on Netflix, you can pause it. You can like take a moment to like step away from the cringe and the awfulness of the people you're watching. But in the theater, you're just forced to sit there with it. And there's something about that like it made it even funnier, because you're laughing as like a release of this
Yeah.
cringe tension within you. And it's just what was it? I think we don't have enough hot dogs.
Oh
And then
my
it
That's like the
plays
first minute.
every
yeah.
single music cue.
Yeah.
It's pretty.
And I thought the
early
rest
on
of the
to
movie would be like that, but it didn't end up doing that at all.
Which I think is the right route.
That's not a bad
Because
thing.
it's like
but yeah.
if you're too I mean, it could work, but I think if you pepper that in, because it is awkward. So like things are gonna happen that are uncomfortable, and like I think that's the right decision.
I mean,
think,
it right
tonally.
away, you know what kind of character she is when that happens. Like that's how she sees everything.
Right. Yeah.
So you don't need it to be every time that something like that happens.
But like what works so well is like the first half of the script, you have pretty solid ideas of who these people are. And the second half, it like flips all of them.
Yeah.
We see like Charles Melton is a much more tragic character. We learn something from Julianne Moore's like son that kind of like fucks with our perception of her. And then we see what Natalie Portman is doing for this all for. And that like
It's a total fucking it's like not that it's justified if the movie was any good.
yeah.
But the fact that her movie is like some
Garbage. Like,
just makes it even worse.
Life-
Up
Lifetime
until
movie.
like 2 days
and then the fact that
ago.
it's shot as
Oh
kind of a
my
garbage
God.
melodramatic film
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Up until like 2 days ago, this is my number one. I keep flip flopping between the two.
Wow.
And I don't want to talk about
Oh.
more because I might put it at number one, but this is so incredible.
Really? Wow. Damn.
Yeah.
I love this movie.
One of my favorite scenes of the year is Charles Melton's character on the roof
With his son.
with his son smoking
Getting
weed.
high. Yeah.
And it's like just a perfect encapsulation of
Brutal,
his
dude.
youth being robbed, you know?
Yeah.
He, I think, is for me, the best performance of the year. And it's a damn shame he's not getting recognized because
It's up
what he
there.
has to do is so difficult.
Did he get nominated?
No,
Yeah.
not for anything.
Oh, he didn't?
No,
I'm surprised
What?
by that.
Yeah.
not for the Oscars at least. I think he did get nominated.
Yeah, some
for
other stuff.
some other
Like SAG,
awards.
I think he got
Yeah.
nominated for, but still.
You think he'd be a shoe-in?
It
'Cause
is a
it's-
tremendous performance, and especially the scene where he breaks down with
Robert
Julianne
Downey
Moore
Jr.
in the bedroom is just tough to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Great movie.
And then the other scene that really sticks out in my mind is two. Natalie Portman teaching the theater class at the school, where she gets oddly sexual with these high school kids, which plays into the theme of the film, but also the moment where she goes to the actual place where Charles Melton and Julianne Moore's characters, they met and they had sex, and she starts masturbating in the this dingy back closet of this pet store, and it's just you want to crawl out of your skin.
Her ego is like insane, yeah. And that high school scene you were talking about, I thought it was gonna be okay. She's being overtly sexual like this to like teach the boy a lesson,
make the kid feel uncomfortable.
But it never. No, it just keeps going.
Freak.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my god, that is one of the most brutal scenes for sure.
What a film!
What a picture!
Great, Natalie Portman. I think for me that was the best performance of the film. Mostly because like I've always liked Natalie Portman, but like this, I haven't seen her be this good in something for a very long time, and it was just wonderful.
The lipstick,
such a good performance from her again.
Yeah. She's awesome.
All right, fellas, we must move on. It is the final four. Like I said, these four were pretty definitive. They were locked in points wise, far above fifth place. There's an 11-point gap between fourth and fifth, and these four films took up a majority of the points of our point system. This number 4, it was on 4 people's lists. Lowest placement was 6th. Highest placement was 3rd. So you can tell we're really getting into the nitty gritty here. It had one of the lowest ranges on the entire list. So everyone had it very high. It averaged a 4.2.
Wow.
This is
Past Lives.
A film I found entirely depressing, but you are correct. It is called Past Lives.
Oh,
I was wondering where this would be.
This is a wonderful film. I believe
I agree.
Who had it the highest? DJ.
I had it at 3. Is that highest?
Yes, yeah. DJ. Past Lives.
Okay. Yeah. No, this is subtly heart wrenching.
Yes.
Trying to remember. I'm so far removed from it now, but I just remember being like extremely into it, and it's kind of relatable in ways. And then, but once you get to like, I don't want to spoil it too much, but you're at like a certain dinner and it's just like, man, I never experienced anything like this, and I never want to. And just like expertly written and beautifully shot, acted, everything.
All the characters seem to be like victims of circumstance in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You can make an argument like about the ethics of all of the characters based on your own opinion, but like at the end of the day, I think that's the biggest tragedy of the movie, is that it's just like the circumstances are just fucked, the timing is fucked up, and like shit happens, and that's what sucks, But all of them approach the situation with like, I don't know, they're all trying to be understanding of each other in an awkward situation. One of my favorite shots of the year is, I'm sure we'll talk about, is the Uber.
That is the best shot.
It's fucking awesome.
That is awesome.
And it's a long
awesome.
one. It's like a minute long or something.
Yeah. As far as the cinematography goes, it does feel like a sort of like inverse to this, not an inverse, but like it's similar to the style of Succession, where it makes New York feel like this just gigantic, oppressing, monolithic environment, but where Succession makes it feel kind of daunting and intimidating. Past Lives makes it feel like kind of quaint. I don't know. There's something about the cinematography in Past Lives where it feels like they're strolling through an abandoned kingdom or something. It's for New York City. I don't know. There hasn't been a movie that's like captured it in this way in a while.
Makes it feel homey almost.
Yeah.
Weird.
Her
apartment,
really cozy metropolitan megacity. Especially when they go out to like Coney Island, you can see the skyline over it was just wonderfully shot. Just
is it 4x3?
No. I don't think so.
I don't remember.
An understated aspect of this film that I thought was honestly awesome was that first shot where the audio is just like a couple that's like people watching, like trying to figure out their dynamic.
I forgot about that.
Oh, right.
And I think that's like a very interesting way to introduce the themes of that film. And like the one that got away aspect of it all. And I found that very interesting, and I feel like it isn't mentioned a lot, but I think it's probably the strongest intro to a film of the year, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's like the thesis
that
of
I
the
can
movie.
think of, at least. Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I didn't think about that.
Oh, we should mention that it's her first movie, right? She wrote and directed.
Yeah.
That's
Shit, yeah.
insane.
Big shout outs.
That's insane.
Co-wrote it, or no, not co-wrote it. She's married to the potion seller.
Oh,
The
yeah.
what? You've seen that YouTube video of that guy? It's like, potion seller, sell me the strongest potion. So the girl who wrote and directed is married to him. So you're like, is this guy in the movie based on the potion seller?
Did he have any
no.
part in the movie? Did he produce it or anything?
I don't know.
I thought he did.
So.
I thought he had like some.
No, he's
sort
written
of role.
other things. I don't think he had a part of this one though.
Oh.
Sell me your strongest potion. I must go into battle.
I was about to say, it didn't make Chandler's list.
What's up with that, Chandler?
Oh, past life.
And that seems far removed from our thoughts on it. So
I was telling
a
a coworker yesterday. The main reason is I still like the movie. I think it was like 24 or something like that. Where I think the problem with it is I do enjoy the movie, but like the more I think about it, it's like and it could be a good or a bad thing, but I just felt like by the end of it, I don't really know any of the three characters. I couldn't tell you anything about the three characters. The entirety of their identity and their personality is just the story that's happening around them. For me personally, I like things like May December, where by the end I know too much about a character. It's more like just a style preference for me. So I don't think it's a bad movie at all. I just wish I knew more.
Zoom romance film. They were Skyping it up. The Skype call noise kind of took me back for a moment.
Remake it in Discord.
For me, the thing with the characters is that it does feel a little light. I'm not sure that's the best way of putting it, but it feels both incredibly specific in terms of like the personal story of immigrating from South Korea to New York and all of that, but it also feels like light enough that like you can read into it and see yourself in the narrative as well in some regards to like the romance and like misconnections and like moving on from your own past and finding a new life and what have you. So I felt like that was kind of the point, and like it felt more universal in that way, that it was kind of restrained with how deep it got to the characters. Although I do think that there is a lot of like subtle characterization that is really impressively built into the film.
Every complaint I have about this movie, I could equally levy towards In the Mood for Love, but In the Mood for Love is one of the greatest movies ever. So I couldn't tell you what the difference is.
It's just like you said, it's probably just a preference thing.
Yeah. Needed Tony Leone.
That's fine. Maybe. This for me is the best shot movie of the year. I mean, we talked about that shot in particular, but just the whole thing from beginning to end is just immaculate vibes, and not just New York, but when she goes to the Montauk or like the end of Long Island, just beautiful. The shots of them,
the cabin
having at the writer's retreat, having the like dinner outside at night with the string lights. Just I'm a sucker for shots like that. And then them in the park in New York with the Ferris wheel in the background, just from beginning to end. I don't know. The first time I watched it, I was like, this is good. But the second time I watched it, like I really just dug the vibes a lot more. And I was really a lot more like emotionally invested in the relationships in the film and the misconnections and just kind of the subtle heartbreak of it all. It's just great first directorial debut.
Hell yeah.
Excellent.
Is that anyone's number one?
That was no one's number one.
Wow. No. I'm surprised.
We have Skinamarink, Boy and the Heron, and the top three placements were the number ones.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Highest for Past Lives, I think, was number 3 on DJ's
That was
list.
Dwayne Burgess.
3.
This is the top 3.
Okay. So it's me.
Does anybody have I mean, we know what the 3 are. I assume anyone that is doing math at home knows what the 3 are.
I don't actually.
Does anyone want to take a
them.
guess? What is number 3?
Number 3
Iron Claw
is Zone of Interest.
No, it's not.
Oh, Zone of Interest too.
Yeah. John Wick 4.
John Wick 4?
Number 3 is Zone of Interest. Jacob is right.
Damn it.
boy.
It was on everybody's list. It was much lower on Chandler's, but we can discuss that. This is another one.
Sounds like a theme.
It was
here.
1 and 2 and 4. So there was everybody had it in the top 10 except for Chandler. I don't want to bag on Chandler too much. Had the largest range of the entire list. Other than Killers of the Flower Moon, there was a 16 placement difference between two different lists. But it is Jacob's best film of the year. It's a little cute, little quaint Nazi film.
Well, you're not wrong. That's the problem.
Okay, Kaufman. What makes this little quaint Nazi
we don't
film
need to
so
mention my
good?
last name. That's inappropriate.
I didn't mean it like that. You read it like that.
I don't care. Oh my god. Okay, so I don't know. There's almost too much to say about Zone of Interest. I honestly think Zone of Interest is
so fucking incredible.
One of the greatest cinematic achievements of the 21st century so far. And that's just in terms of the filmmaking inventiveness that is on display here. I really think just across the board this year, I've mentioned it a few times this episode already, just the sheer inventiveness of different films, like Poor Things with its production design, Spider-Man with its animation, honestly Skinamarink too. I'm not gonna deny it that, but Zone of Interest,
I will deny it this year, but
Zone of Interest just takes you places cinematically that I just cannot recall any other film doing. And let's just start with like the opening 3 minutes of pure black. This, you're almost going through like this cinematic tunnel into this weird dystopian world of where you're from the perspective of Nazis. And a film, like most movies about World War II and the Holocaust, often put you in the perspective of the victims of the Holocaust, actually almost all of them. And to see a film that puts the audience in the perspective of absolute monsters, and as demonstrated by the one scene where the lead character is at a party and the only thing he's thinking about, we're told, is how he can gas everyone at the party. And these are like fellow Nazis. So like he has no compunction whatsoever. It's not necessarily about the Jews. It's just, he just likes gassing people.
I'll be honest, it was one of my largest unintended laughs of the year, was just how unbelievably evil that thought was.
Yeah, I had a few
I couldn't even enjoy the
just...
party. I was just thinking about how awful this room would be to gas people. Like, terrible riz, bro.
But it takes that subject matter, which could be very exploitative and what have you, and it treats it very subtly and very respectfully. And quite frankly, the most emotional I ever got in the theater this year was in the scene where the little girl finds a poem written by one of the inmates at Auschwitz. And we don't hear the poem itself. We hear someone playing the piano and the words are silent. And it's just through subtitles, we are told the text of this poem / song that one of the Auschwitz inmates written. And that for me like symbolized the lack of voice that they have, that these people are being killed and that there is no one to speak this work of art. And it's the silence was kind of like deafening and really like emotionally evocative with just the piano playing. And then there's that, then there's like this weird inverted world. I'm trying to think of what the infrared is called. Infrared. That's it.
Yes, those
just
are excellent.
Bizarre and strange, and the music and the sound design, and just like I could go on forever, but it's just so cinematically inventive that it just came together in like the full package of just like, this is what cinema's for, and experimenting with it.
The subtle way they show a lot of the horror too, it's kind of like they almost are doing like a slasher thing where it's like the scene that really hit me is like he's in his garden smoking a cigar and he's just like watching the chimney. And he's just like, it's like you're checking on your work real quick before you go to bed. Like you just had to get one more thing done real quick. And he's just smoking a cigar, just like looking at it. Like there's almost like a sense of pride on his face. And it's just like it makes you feel so gross and so queasy watching this film. And I think that's just takes, I think it just speaks to the expert filmmaking behind it. I think there's a lot of fun, like, show it subtly stuff in here. I like the kids party in the pool and you see the train going by. And I think the ending's incredible. I think the last 10 minutes of this film is the best last 10 minutes of a film of the year, in my opinion. I think it left me entirely dumbfounded and dumbstruck and felt awful. And,
just the sequence where he's the
in the water.
No, I'm talking about when he starts to gag. Mm-hmm. And then we cut to the modern Auschwitz footage and then back to him and then it ends. That's like the whole movie was great, but that like sequence, I just thought, like, I'm seeing something just evil here.
I know.
This is like the purest expression of just like unfathomable evil, where deep in him, his body is rejecting his own morals, but he can't even, I don't know, something about, and just that insanely dark corridor. This whole movie just has like a bunch of stuff that I'm like, I can't really wrap my head around, because it's reaching so far and expanding the art form so much that I need to see it again. But the problem is I don't want to see it not in a theater, because seeing it in a theater, especially, I can't tell you the amount of discomfort I felt after like 3 minutes of just nothing and the music. I just know it won't be easily as replicatable at home. So that's the only reason it's not as high. But I understand why Glazer takes 10 years a movie, because every time he takes 10 years to cook. This is a fucking slow cooker. He's a slow cooker. He's a slow cooker. Puts that shit in the crock pot on low. 10 years.
That casual evil, like just the everyday indifference. So like some of the most horrifying things that have ever happened is like.
But like so many movies have tackled banality of evil, whatever, to where it's like almost like a thematic cliche. But this like.
But not to this level.
I know, but I can't explain why. But it's more than that. It's like less than banality. It's like, I don't know,
indifference. It's like completely indifferent.
The big lesson from I think Zone of Interest for me is like, yes, these people are like monstrously evil, but it's a film about like ignoring the violence that is happening right next to you, and the human capacity for God, what's the word? Like tuning out that and just like focusing on what your thoughts, what you want, and everything. And that, because like, yes, Hess is just like an objectively awful, evil person, but his wife is just kind of like living her life blissfully, like just she's aware, but she's also not aware,
enjoying the spoils of everything and the code.
And she's seemingly more evil than him, at least from what we see. Like. Another scene that I found particularly disgusting was when they're like sharing they're like discussing the outfits that they took from some, I assume, is some of the victims. She's like, I got this sick jacket. I'm just like, fuck you guys. That's really what you come out of the theater saying fuck you guys, and you never thought you'd see a film where that makes you hate Nazis, but here we are. So here we are. We're going on to number 2. I think these two are. Oh well, yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry, DJ. Did you have any other thoughts?
No, yeah. I mean, I agree with all you guys. I think I was gonna say, like, you could see like this kind of being played out, like where everything they're doing there in some other fictional story or movie could be seen as like almost cartoonish, but the fact that this is like how it actually went down is insane. It's kind of like part of the awe of it all is like, I don't know. That's part of what affected me from it too. It's just like, this is how it actually was. Like they just casually just went through their lives right next door to all this evil.
But there's even like things that I never even would have thought, like, of course this happens. Yeah, of course there's going to be gas chamber salesmen. Like, come on.
Yeah, like dude, that's one of the funniest scenes too.
You got to upgrade really your model and just laying the blueprints down. It's just like, yeah, of course.
And the scene where he was like, the guy like needed to hit a quota of workers, and he's like, "This, you killed too many, man. I need more workers." And I'm just like, you guys are talking about people. Just wanted to like punch
Disassociate.
babies. I was so mad.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah,
It's about
disassociate.
the human ability to disassociate from the suffering of others.
Because this is not passive evil. This is not something that you can just, ignore. You have to like
Actively
rewire your brain to not be bothered by this. And this is just a movie about the long-term effects of that.
Right.
And that was another to just to wrap it up, is that scene where they're arguing at the dock about having to move, and she's like, "But honey, we're gonna have to move the kids." And I'm
We
like,
have the perfect life here by this
You just
concentration.
dislocated 10 million people to kill them, and now your kids have to go to a different school. Come on.
I'm the queen of
Anyways, look, Nazis suck. We learned that here today.
All right, what's
This is number two.
Is it Holdovers or Oppie?
No. Damn, John McFord.
I was gonna say it's Oppenheimer and Holdovers. These are the two films.
But what
Oh,
order?
I thought it was Cocaine Bear
yeah,
Night.
yeah.
Oh,
Reveal
it's
two.
The
got
question
cocaine
is,
there.
what do we feel is the order?
I'm gonna say
One of the
Holdovers
films
2.
was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the other film was 1, 3, 3, 5, 5. So these were the clear 2 highest rated films on our list. Every single person had these 2 films in their top 5.
Oppenheimer's
Which one do you think?
I think Holdovers.
Holdovers
2.
2, Oppenheimer 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you made that less fun than it could have been. But this is the Holdovers. And I did spoil the end of the list, but I mean, it was obvious.
Well,
Holdovers.
It's obvious.
It's obvious.
True. Hey, number one could have been Saltburn. You never know.
Everyone had it in the top 5.
No John McFord.
It's
no
a wonderful-
Ironclaw.
Now I kind of hate Skinamarink.
Nope.
I know. Paul Giamatti, I think gives the best performance of the year in this film. I had it at number 1, so I'll start. Paul Hunnam's goated. This film is so wonderful and quaint, and I just love everything about it. It's deep character stuff. It's great performances. It's a very relatable characters.
Perfect encapsulation.
It's one of those
the
movies that kind of
holidays.
like it's like a nice warm bowl of gumbo of a film. You just sit down, you get your little blanket out, you sit on the couch, you cuddle up nice. There's like quaint, folky guitar music and like beautiful snowy, northeast part of the country. And I think without a doubt, Paul Giamatti is the best leading male performance of the year. I personally think that's without question. I think he's fucking incredible in this film. And this film is also hilarious. I think Paul Hunnam, I don't know if he was intended to be this funny, but I find it fucking hilarious. He is some of the
I think it was
references to
intended.
like, yeah, I think a lot of it is intended. Some of the his stuff about like the Romans, and he just keeps referencing the old
The
times
Rubicon.
like it means anything to these like hippie kids. And I think it's excellent. Does anyone else want to take the reins and give their thoughts? It's the best movie of the year in my opinion as well. It was my
That's
number
your
one on
number
my
one?
list. Yes.
I had it at 5. I also loved it. You hit the nail on the head right there. I think the character stuff is pretty much what makes the movie for me. I think I wanted to like it a little bit more. I feel like on rewatches it'll definitely help. But yeah, I also loved it. Found it really funny, and the characters will pull me through the entire thing.
Going into it, I was like, okay, I know the entire plot of the movie. And I watched it with my mom, and we're like, okay, it's gonna be Dead Poet Society, Good Will Hunting. But it's really not. It has like a similar plot structure
It follows
loosely,
the beats,
but
to a degree.
but not. It could have been a lot more cliched, and it avoids those, and it's very subtly has like subtly deep character things that
It doesn't
Could-
take the easy route.
right. It could resolve in a stereotypical Hollywood way. Not that Dead Poets or Good Will Hunting are bad movies, because I love both those movies, but it doesn't do the same things as those, which I really appreciated. Especially with the lead student character and Paul Giamatti.
I'm going to kind of
honestly
flip that
all of them.
on its side, saying that like I do think it's incredibly cliched and it treads a lot of like ground that has already been treaded. But this is, I think, the perfect example of like how you don't need to be, a movie doesn't need to be unique in order to be great, because it can improve upon what's already been done, or it can do it in a new way and offer insights on things that you've previously seen before. And there's also like this comfort in familiarity, and I feel like it uses that familiarity with the character archetypes and the kind of setting and like the wintry Christmassy vibes, but it uses that familiarity to create the vibes and the atmosphere in which lets you get like really familiar with these characters and kind of like sink into the world. And it's just one of the most comforting movies I've seen in a long time, and it will
Exactly.
100% be like a yearly rewatch around the holidays.
It's comforting, but it's not like schmaltzy or like too much, because there's still like a lot of drama within the movie that I respected. And even the ending, it's like it hints towards something that's going to happen, but it's not like this
So
like
good.
everything resolves perfectly and it's like a beautiful, happy like Christmas ending. It's like, no, there's still some like,
Because like the woman is still grieving.
yeah.
Paul Giamatti is
It's
fired.
and life goes on
Divine,
kind of ending.
divine.
So it's not, I mean, it is comforting for me, but it's also like it still has like depth and drama to it that, for my liking, isn't too schmaltzy.
And the 70s aesthetic does not feel like a gimmick.
Yeah,
I mean, you could argue that it does, but I think it's done.
I mean, it goes all in. It has
Yeah.
focus features, which didn't exist in the 70s, but they made a specifically designed
Oh, yes.
70s
Yeah.
version logo.
Oh,
which is
really?
just the perfect way to start
Yeah.
a movie. Yeah.
Oh, that's
yeah,
awesome.
they made that up. It's awesome.
That is awesome. One of my
I've heard it
favorite
was
looking
so
movies,
popular.
too.
It was so popular too that they're gonna start like just using it in general.
Oh,
I've heard.
sick.
Really?
I don't know if that's
They should.
necessarily true,
I mean,
but
Probably
I
not
think
for
it's
everything, but
I
for
think it's
period
excellent.
pieces, it works.
And
Yeah.
I'm just glad
Yeah, I
this
think
is
it's-
putting Paul Giamatti back on the map, because he's been one of the best
100%.
for 20 years. He's
One of the
always
He's just
good.
goated.
I guess he's been on a
He's
show
goated.
called Billions that no one under the
And
age of
John
50
Adams.
has watched. John Adams, he's great in John Adams. He's just one of those guys that always delivers. And he's already had his next movie set with Alexander Payne. It's a Western, so that's gonna be fucking great.
Ooh,
That's gonna be awesome.
excellent.
Yeah,
I'm Alexander Payne pilled after this film. I need to go
Sideways
check
is
out more
also
of his
good.
stuff.
And Nebraska and Election.
And the election is fucking
Election's
awesome.
great.
The lead student, I don't remember. I'm so bad remembering.
Angus Tully, I had to look it up.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, so Paul Giamatti is gonna rally these kids to be good students, and they're gonna soften him. And then like literally 30
kids
minutes,
fuck off.
they all just leave. And then you're like, oh shit,
Yeah, all
okay,
the
this is a
kids are out of the
completely
movie.
different movie now. And I don't know. I thought, I'm like, okay, how much story do we really have with these three leads? And a lot. And it all worked for me. I loved it. Thoroughly enjoyed
The
it.
best scene for me, it's a combination of two. The first time Paul and Angus go to the bar with those guys.
That was
Paul
funny.
He tries to order a beer.
tries to order, and I just love the entirety of their trip to Boston, because that's where it's like maximum
Yeah.
holiday vibes. You learn that
And
Mhm.
his story
Paul hit
about how
someone
he
with a car.
hit the guy with the car.
Yeah.
Yep.
Him
Great.
meeting his dad is my pick for the strongest scene of the year, in my opinion. I haven't seen May December, I think is what you guys said. But him seeing his dad again, I think was the strongest scene of the year, in my opinion. I think it's the one that stuck with me the most.
Also, hardest shot of the year when he's lighting his cigar or his pipe in the screening
In the
of
theater?
movie.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Great.
sick.
Incredible. Or when he's
Just an
talking
incredible
to the fucking
film.
Santa at the bar at the bowling alley.
Unprompted, just gives him a history of Santa Claus. This is these two just kind of grubby looking people.
Perfect character moment.
Bring Paul Hunnam back.
Yeah, we need Paul Hunnam sequels. Maybe the Held Over next year.
He can be
Still holding on.
he
Yeah,
can be
still
the Benoit
holding.
Blanc of that universe. Just
That
drop
would
him
be
in
sick.
different places.
Put Paul Hunnam at a bunch of different universities.
Drop him in Europe. Drop him in
Paul Hunnam's
Southwest.
teaching at University of Florida.
Hell yeah.
And it
Wow, I
is
wonder what number one is.
unfortunately time-wise ready to move on. We do know what it is, though. It is a tiny
Oppie.
little independent film called Oppenheimer.
Oppie.
This was 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 on our respective
Wow.
lists.
Wow.
Everybody got in top 5. It was the lowest average on the list. Obviously, it had the highest. It had 40 out of a potential 50 total points,
Cooked.
so it pretty much dominated this aggregate system. For reference, holdovers had 38, zone of interest had 31, past lives had
Damn.
27. Everything else was 15 or below.
Jeez.
So Oppenheimer
Killed
pretty
it.
much had 80% of its potential points it could earn with this list, and it's one of the best films of the year. DJ,
It's my number
it
one.
was your number one.
Yeah.
Reiterate what everybody says about this film.
Come on. I mean, we all know it's finally Chris Nolan getting to flex his chops in like a just pure drama movie. Everyone always says like, you know, he's like that giant blockbuster guy with weird ideas and uh but he can just do regular drama and still make it like his own thing. Like it still feels like a blockbuster action movie even though there's barely any of that. And you hear these stories with people going to it and they're just like, I just wanted to see the bomb and then I left, and it's like that
What?
was yeah, I mean that's the draw for you, but I mean I get it because that scene is incredible and it feels like a Nolan movie just in that one scene, and then you get the rest of it for the other people who just wanted a straight up period drama.
What's ironic is the strongest part is after the bomb, so those people
Yeah,
just miss like
for
the best
sure.
part of the movie.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Amazing editing. The first like 10 minutes I was just like, oh my god, what is happening, because it was moving so quick and it felt like a montage, and the whole movie plays like a montage almost.
Yeah,
And I
the
just thought that the
intercutting
fact that
and-
it kept me kept me in it and not annoyed by that just is a testament to how great the editing was and the story.
Been saying
Great
it for years,
performances.
but once Nolan figures out dialogue,
Yeah.
the world is cooked.
So yeah,
He figured it out. He read a
He
book.
did.
Jacob,
He
what,
did kind of cook with this.
we can
He
thank Robert
cooked.
Pattinson.
Jacob, you had it at number 2.
I did. Yeah, I mean, at the risk of just repeating what everyone has said about this movie, this is a cinematic achievement, and quite frankly, depending on the day you ask me, it's either this or Zone of Interest. Like they're just tied for number one. I think they're both monumental pieces of cinema, and Oppenheimer, I think, is going to go down as like an all-timer piece of film. And
We're witnessing
I saw
film history.
someone on Letterboxd the other day talk about how like love the movie, but like the last 30 minutes didn't do it for them. And I'm like, come on, rewatch the movie, because the last 30 minutes are like the whole point of the movie.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
why Christopher Nolan made the movie. The movie is not about the bomb. The bomb is a vehicle. It's the vehicle for the character study of Oppenheimer and the guilt or lack thereof that he feels. And I feel like there's been a lot of like misinterpreting of or missing the character of Oppenheimer, and how the whole point sort of the film is like he doesn't really feel guilty about the whole thing. He wants the praise and the admiration of the act. And one of the key moment for me is when his wife says, do you think that they're going to forgive you if you let everyone tar and feather you? And his reaction is like this very cold, perhaps. It's just great. Like cinema all the way around is such a perfect experience. It got better with every single viewing, and just beautiful, beautiful filmmaking, beautiful sound design, music, everything. I like just praise all around.
Yeah, to expand on what you said, it's like, and what Naj said, it's like if the culmination of the film is the bomb, then you're not getting the Oppenheimer, the point which is like you said, what is his reaction to it? What is the world's reaction to it? And it's, I think what you talked about is like his lack of spine, where he's just kind of like, he kind of just mask switches depending on who he's talking to, and kind of is in this like muddy fence sitting area where he can try to get the benefits of having the scientific achievement, but also like helping win the war and being this like war hero, but also saying, well, I'm not technically responsible for it because I didn't. So like that whole internal struggle is the movie. So like you said, it's kind of weird to complain about that. But yeah, and I also think it's one of Hans Zimmer's. Is it Hans Zimmer? No.
Yep,
yeah,
it's
yeah.
Hans Zimmer.
One of his best. One of my favorite scores he's done.
Yeah,
Wait.
incredible.
Is it Hans Zimmer?
Yeah, I
Is
think
it
it is Hans Zimmer. It's
Hans
someone
Zimmer
else.
and is it the guy who did Black Panther? What's his
I
name?
don't fucking remember. Kendrick Lamar.
The soundtrack.
What is this? It's not.
It
It's
is
like-
Ludwig
it's Ludwig
Göransson.
Göransson.
for
Ludwig.
Oppenheimer.
Right.
That's for
Didn't
Oppenheimer.
Hans Zimmer also help or no?
No,
Anyway, that was like
I think he's isn't
an
he
amazing
a student of
score.
Hans
Executive
Zimmer?
producer James Woods.
Yep. Hell yeah. But yeah, I love the score. I mean that is one of my favorite scores of the year.
It's in every possible definition a miracle of movies, because not only is it this gigantic, I don't want to say art house,
It's
but
event.
it is unconventional for a movie this big, this popular,
Yes.
this giant of a scale. But also, it's like a movie that I think is like gonna sort of represent this sea change where we're back to being adults, and now adults want to see movies that are a little more complicated. Sure, maybe they all went to just go see The Bomb, but almost $1 billion worth of people showed up for this 3-hour fucking historical epic about the making of the atomic bomb. Yes, it's Nolan. Yes, it has every fucking star in the world in it, but I do think it sort of like reflects the changing of the tides, where we're back to like making things that are a little bit more adult oriented, maybe not as many
More risks.
MCU movies, maybe more. This is for, I mean, it's based on a real guy. It's historical, so how it original is historical fiction, but it is an original movie, and it's just like Nolan cooked. This is his opus. I had to like sit on it for a bit because I do love The Dark Knight, but I think this is my favorite Nolan movie, and I was a Nolan hater for a long time. He brought me back.
This
I
is
still
Nolan's
really,
best
I
work.
still really hate Interstellar, but this movie's incredible.
Come
I
on.
love that movie.
Lopes and 6. Okay.
It's not just The Dark Knight
Shut the
Rises.
hell up.
Well, yeah, that is our list. So I guess I can go ahead now and pop this bad boy over, and you guys can look at this information.
Oh, I can't even
So
see
you
it.
can
zoom
see
in
here,
here?
these are our individual top 10 lists.
Oh, you
So
okay.
anything bolded was films that did not make the rankings. So we can see here the notable
DJ
one here
got
is
spoiled.
Mission Impossible.
DJ got spoiled.
Mission Impossible, Dead Reckoning. I mean, it would have ended up, I think it would have been either 10 or 9 if we didn't implement the aggregate rule.
Hey, I mean, so many of mine made it on the list,
notable
so.
Iron Claw, Dungeons and Dragons.
I
Bo's
missed
Afraid
American
gotta-
Fiction. I feel like I would
Yeah, I
really like
missed
that
it
movie.
too.
I just didn't get a
American
chance.
Fiction's awesome. I like that movie a lot. Jacob didn't like it very much, but he is also racist, so get that on the record.
Well known.
Um,
Well known racist, yes.
What happened to John McFord, Jacob?
Yeah, what?
Oh, well, I mean, on the list we have each of us going through our 3 minutes to talk about the year.
Oh,
Do you want
okay.
to go
Let's
into
do it.
that?
Yeah.
Nick?
Oh,
yeah, again, this was kind of my segue into that. So yeah, we had marked out some time for people to discuss their own lists if they felt some of the films on their list didn't get the light of day and wanted to bring them up, or perhaps talk about their thought process with their list, their own individual list, because we kind of brushed over our individual lists for the aggregate list. So
I know I had someone else starting, but I think I'll just go first if you don't mind, Nick.
yes,
just
go
to
ahead.
kinda like
Jacob
because of
Kaufman,
the
your
direct
top 10 list.
question about John Wick 4. God, I love John Wick 4, and for the longest time it was like number 2 of the year. And then it just like the last portion of the year just kind of like hit hard, and it didn't stand a chance. And quite frankly, 2023 is honestly just an amazing year in film.
It really is.
really struggled with my top 10. It was by no means easy. I think my top 5 pretty solid. Like I am certain of
You got
that
it.
order. Actually, no, top 4. What?
Struggling
The Excel
so
sheet was
hard.
being an asshole.
He's
Okay,
trying to
fine.
zoom into your list.
This is. I'm trying to make it easier
Don't
for you
worry
guys
about
to
it.
see, but it's being a pain in the ass. All right,
That's
go ahead,
good.
Jacob.
Just
Okay.
open it on
Yeah.
Letterboxd.
I'm just talking
That's
about it in
true,
general.
actually.
On private.
And
I
I
kinda
just
like-
my typical plan every year is to give every film in my top 10 or that has a chance of getting my top 10 2 viewings, because usually I will like a film more on a second viewing, almost always. And I was rewatching everything. I rewatched Past Lives, Holdovers, Anatomy of the Fall, and every time I'd watch one of these movies, I was like, God damn, I don't know where this is on my top 10 list, but it needs to be higher. And then I'd go into my top 10 list and be like, well, shit, I can't put Anatomy of the Fall higher. It's not better than Holdovers. And so I just was constantly running into this issue where just like so many good movies, and I just didn't have enough room in my top 10 list. But yeah, John Wick 4 is great, great action movie, just balls to the walls, just fun. And there's just like the plot is just nonsense. Who cares? It's just a vehicle for that kind of fun. And on the whole, a great year. Two movies that I don't think anyone else really watched, except for Chandler, who refused to put it on his list. Perfect
Just wait
Days
365
is a perfect
days.
movie. Can't wait to see it
yeah,
again.
perfect.
I went and saw a Q&A with them vendors and Koji.
Your good friend.
Your
Yakusho.
good friend, Vim Vendors.
Good friend. Yep. I got to shake Vim
Friend of
Vendors'
the
hand.
podcast.
Great film. Love it. Also, Monster, Koreeda. We got a Koreeda movie this year. We actually got two because he did the miniseries, The Makanai.
Oh
Or,
yeah.
not the movie series, the short series on Netflix, which I haven't finished. I'm currently trying to finish it. But Monster is great. It is last year. What was the Koreeda movie last year?
Broker.
Broker. It's better than Broker. Much better than Broker. So I highly recommend all of you check it out. Very sweet, intimate movie, and I'm kind of heartbroken that it did not make my top 10. It was in my top 10 for the longest time, but I kicked it out for Poor Things and Spider-Man and what have you.
Damn.
But great year all around. This is a year that shows that cinema is still alive and well, and anyone that says that movies are not as good these days as the previous decades, I don't know what they're smoking, but they need to get more fun and enjoyment into their life.
True.
Excellent. I was going to say Sonju and I have the most films that were not included in the list in our top 10. So I was going to let Sonju go next. Do you have any thoughts on your top 10 or anything else you want to add?
Sure. Well, I do like that we have a diversity of movies. It's more fun that way. I guess I'll just fire through these. Are You There, God was my number 9. I don't know if you guys saw it. Are You There, God is Me, Margaret. It's based on the Judy Blume book, I believe. Just a delightful movie. Just, I don't know how else to explain it other than that. It's like, me and my girlfriend Callie saw it in theaters. And Heron? As in boy in the heron? Yeah, I mean, it's just a delightful movie about like girlhood and growing up as a girl and going through that awkward period in your life. And I don't know, I just felt I came out of theater feeling good, and there aren't
It was
a
very
lot of
relatable
movies
for you, right?
Yeah, true. I was gonna say I can't really speak to it, but it was very it just made me feel good. It was a good theater experience. Benny Safdie's the dad, which I wasn't, it's kind of against his characters usually.
He's no Dougie.
Yeah. So and I don't think there's a lot of movies that really explore that, or maybe that I've not seen. John Wick 4, maybe the best one, which is hilarious.
It
Just-
100% is.
Dude,
It's fucking wrong.
there's so many awesome sequences in that movie. The whole third act, it's just one of my favorite theater experiences of the year. Thoroughly enjoyed it. The best of the series, probably. And then Iron Claw, which I'm kind of surprised that didn't make anyone else's list. I thought John Wick 4 and Iron Claw were for sure going to be on someone else's list. But Iron Claw I went and saw by myself. And that's only like the second or third movie I've seen by myself. And I cried in public and sat in the
Somebody drop
theater
the
for a little
iconic
bit.
Sanj cry picture, please.
Oh yeah, and I had to rep my wrestling shirt today to represent, because I thought
What
we
was
would
it?
discuss it.
Epic.
Mankind.
Oh.
Mankind's good.
Mankind's goated. I'm a sucker for a wrestling movie because it's one of the most depressing industries. It's like it's like the UFC. Well, I guess UFC doesn't have a union either, but like the NFL not having a players union, and also it's like just such a disrespected profession, and just the culmination of the events that happen in the movie.
It's that tragic mixture of incredibly exploitative and it gives you a lot of glory, but to no reward.
Yeah, it's truly like just a passion.
Yeah.
Like you have to be. It's brutal, and I knew some knowledge about the Von Erichs prior, but like just the culmination. There's a specific sequence in the film, the boat sequence, that was just heart
Good
wrenching.
lord.
And then I guess I'll wrap it up by saying Skinamarink is a 2023 film directed by Kyle Edward Ball, and it's fucking
Balls.
awesome. But I think our top 10 is pretty
All right.
solid. The group list.
As the one girl said as I was leaving the theater for Iron Claw, it's Little Women, but for men.
I've seen a lot of people say that.
That's
I
true.
see
Little
that.
men.
Yeah.
Bob Odenkirk even shows up in this one.
My Iron Claws,
He's Ric Flair.
dude.
All right, we can wrap up. We can wrap up the Beck boys if Chandler has any thoughts on his list.
I mean,
that
my
he'd
list
like
is it's got a good amount that's in everyone's, but I guess the two standouts. I did at the last moment add Beau's Afraid to the top 10, and I'm still not entirely sure
course you
why. This is sort of like my last, because the thing is, there's still a lot of hate about Beau's Afraid. But it's I don't think there's a single movie in the last year that I thought about more than Beau's Afraid. And I'm just looking forward for the lifelong journey where I'm going to watch it every year and be like, maybe this is the time I'm going to like it, and then just not. Because
I want to like him more too.
I was telling
I wanna like
Sonju
him more
yesterday
too.
that like I respect the hell out of it, because very rarely do you get a director who almost seemingly self-sabotages his own career. Because Ari Aster won so much goodwill by being the A24 Golden Boy, and he just took all of that and he put it in the fucking dumpster. And you know, he'll still find work because he's a talented filmmaker with 2 hits under his belt. But I just gotta fucking applaud the audacity to just take this blank check and make something so purposefully unenjoyable, and not in a fun, unenjoyable way, but just like he did it for
Annoying.
himself. And I respect that move, even though an hour of this 3-hour movie is unwatchable. But I'll keep coming back to it.
I mean, there's so many great.
I'd also love to
sequences in
throw
it,
some
yeah.
praise to Nathan Lane as well.
Yes.
as
That's
a,
my favorite part.
And I was
from
also
a
telling-
performance perspective.
I was also telling Sonju yesterday, the first 2 Ari Aster movies felt like riffs on his influences. This is the first one, for better or worse, where I'm like, okay, this is what you wanted to make. You were not filtered by genre expectations or box office sway. This is what you wanted to make, and God bless you, because fuck. Other movie I'll talk about real quick is Dungeons and Dragons, because
I love that movie.
it's a great fucking movie. I feel like, similar to Blackberry, I've been like banging this drum all year, but very rarely do you get like a big budget, well-made, well-crafted, practical blockbuster that does the fucking smarmy, witty humor, but in a non-annoying way. So much of this movie on paper I would hate if literally anyone else did it, but it all works so well. And this was also the year that I got fucking super into Baldur's Gate. So Dungeons and Dragons sort of like occupies the 2 obsessions I've had with both video games and movies. Dungeons and Dragons is just a really fun comfort movie. I've watched it 3 times this year. I kind of just throw it on. Great.
I mean, it does it. It pays homage to the, like, it does well by the source material.
Yes.
Like it's not like a video game movie
Yes.
that, or I guess not video game per se, but gaming adjacent movie that is not like scared to. It's not scared of its own material like other video game like properties are, where they have to like change everything. It's like, no, it leans into the fantasy aspect,
that
and even the violence in the movie is someone pointed out, it's kind of like how turns work
Yep.
on the. Okay, so I want to watch that again.
You can see when they fail the skill checks, and it's very funny. So it's like, if you have any working knowledge of how D&D Baldur's Gate works, you can see that influences the actual plot in a way that's not annoying. But last thing I'll say is that best Hugh Grant performance of the year. Because there are
Oh yeah, not great in his other
Bradley
performance
Cooper as
role,
well.
but he is
and
good in
Bradley,
this.
yes, best Bradley Cooper.
Yeah, this movie made me like
So
Chris Pine,
weird.
which is I didn't think something was possible.
But,
I
oh
like
God,
Chris Pine.
the Bradley
though.
Cooper cameo is one of the funniest things.
It's so
ever.
awesome. He rules for that.
It is.
Mhm.
That scene is incredible.
Ruled.
I forgot about that. Maestro not getting a appearance on this
Damn,
list.
surprising lack of
Another
Maestro.
one.
Oh yeah. Wow.
I will also say that those two films that Chandler had were like in the teens for me. Like they were close. I love Dungeons and Dragons as well. I want to share that sentiment. I'll go ahead now. My list is extremely chalky at the top, and then some of my like personal favorites kind of slide in the bottom. American Fiction, which I would say everyone should watch. I think this is one of the best scripts of the year, in my opinion. I think it's really sharp. It is a satire, a societal satire in every single sense of the word, and I think that can be to its detriment at some points. But I think the strong points of this film make up for some of the annoying stuff. And I think Jeffrey Wright is awesome in this.
He rules.
I will say that it has the most confusing acting nod, in my opinion, for I forget the actor's name, so I apologize. But the gay brother in this film got a nomination.
Get from Waves.
And I'm not entirely sure why, because he's good, but he's only like on screen for like 5 minutes of the movie. It's just a really bizarre nomination choice, in my opinion, where I feel like that category was pretty stacked this year, and I feel like it could have gone to some other people, notably like a Nathan Lane, for example, or the kid from May December that you guys referenced. I haven't seen that.
36-year-old kid.
The kid, yeah, the literal kid. Another one that I assume people that are listening to this podcast probably assumed would make the list is Barbie.
Yeah, I'm surprised.
And I mean, everyone.
Yeah.
That's one of the ones that was, I think, the most surprising to me.
Someone somewhere is going to write or is currently writing their dissertation of Barbie and
someone
Poor
is
Things.
Someone is angry at Split Take.
Oh, no, I was saying someone is. That is true, but someone is also writing a dissertation on Barbie versus Poor Things somewhere.
Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I had it at 12.
Yeah, I have to imagine it was
so
on all of our lists at some point.
I think it was only like a couple top 20s. We can literally look right here.
Mine was it was like 15.
Barbie it was on 4 lists. Okay,
Yeah,
so it barely skimmed out of honorable mentions. It would have been one of the next couple, but
I think it.
Yeah, great film. I'm not going to speak too much on it because I feel like everyone has seen this movie and everyone knows it's of quality. So I won't speak too much. Also, I don't really like women, but the film's fine. The film's fine. And then obviously Dream Scenario. I think this film is so fucking funny. If Poor Things didn't exist this year, this is probably the funniest film of the year. I think Nicolas Cage is great and unironically amazing in the performance and in the comedy aspect of it. One of the better scripts, in my opinion, this year. It gets a little heady at the end, and I think that's what gets kind of weighs it down on our lists.
It went up.
I know
for me a bit.
I know some people in this call don't really. Yeah, some people in this call don't really like the ending. I thought the ending was awesome.
I like the ending.
I know the ending weighed down the film for a lot of people, but I think the ending is fucking awesome, especially the last line. One of the best endings of the year, in my opinion. And then otherwise, my list is pretty chalky. I didn't like Oppenheimer as much as everybody else. I thought the other things in the top 5 were stronger than Oppie. But Oppie being number 1 makes sense. So I don't have too many begrudgings with that. But last up, who I was intentionally saving for last because he had the highest ranked snubbed film.
Which
I had to have
I'm kind of surprised by because DJ usually has the off the wall top 10.
This is like my most generic one.
Yeah, to be fair, DJ's top 10.
This is your most chalky top 10.
Other than that film, his top 10 pretty much lines up, at least.
He's
almost perfectly.
And Jacob
contrarian this year.
Jacob and DJ.
But DJ, Mission Impossible. This is your 3-minute spotlight for your number 2 of the year, Mission Impossible.
I mean, you know me. I just like my capital E entertaining movies. I had Fast and Furious one year. Malignant was my number 1. Top Gun was my number 1. So yeah, I mean, if a movie can just make me just have a ton of fun while also just being a generally well-made movie, it's gonna be on the list. And there wasn't a lot of that this year besides that one. I actually want to disagree with Jacob. I think it was a pretty not a bad year, but I don't think it was that great of a year. cinema's dying, in my opinion. It's not dead, but it's dying. No, I
Do you
mean,
actually
it's
think
not that? I mean, I do think that it wasn't that great of a year. I don't think it's dying. But it was like mostly 3.5 to 4 stars for me on my list. I only had one 5-star movie, which generally isn't the case for me. I usually have like 2 or 3. And then I only had, I think, 3 or 4 4.5 movies, which usually there's like
Usually have a
10 to
bunch.
15.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think maybe it's a change in circumstances of my life. Could be that. Maybe I'm just
If
like,
I may interject
yeah,
real
what's that?
quick, part of it isn't necessarily the like overall quality of a movie. Because like something like Skinamarink, I would say that's an example of film being alive and well, even though I don't personally care for it, because it's not necessarily about like what I vibe with or not. It's about like the artistry of cinema. Is it on display? Is it being pushed in new directions? Is it our directors getting to tell really wild and crazy stories? And so like there's movies like um that an Asteroid City, which like I didn't like care for all that, but like that's like those are examples like cinema's live and well. I'm not necessarily vibing with those movies, but they are like
No, yeah, I don't
great cinematic
actually think it's
achievements.
dying. I mean, the fact that we have movies like Zone of Interest coming out and first time director making past lives and that being so good and successful. I think Poor Things. Um we still got Marty making movies. We still got, we got Oppenheimer being one of the
You
best.
got good superhero films.
Wait, which ones?
Ferrari.
Zone of Interest.
Oh
Did
my
you have any
God.
other?
I missed.
Did you have
Dead
any other
Reckoning.
films
I
on the
didn't see it.
DJ Entertaining Index that
I would
didn't
like to
get a
just
reference
say,
that you want to bring
even
up?
though I don't really care for Dead Reckoning, doing the Ving Rhames voice was a top 3 bit of the year.
True. No, I mean, that's part of the reason why I think this year was kind of weak for me too, is like there wasn't a lot of that. I mean, we had, I think, Dungeons and Dragons, John Wick, and Mission Impossible, and there wasn't a lot of other ones that I thought were quality. I mean, I guess like Godzilla -1 was one that really caught me off guard. That was, but I didn't vibe with it as much as everyone else. I wish I did.
Damn, I'm surprised that didn't make the list either. I forgot. That was
I forgot
Yeah,
about
people are
that
gonna
was like
hate us for that.
11 or something for me. It was like right near the top.
It was 21.
Now that
for
we're
me.
kind of wrapping up our thoughts on our own list, I can kind of show you guys this as well. So you can see some of the films that just barely didn't make the list: Iron Claw, John Wick, Barbie, Asteroid City. Another one that was decently high on everyone's list: Beau's Afraid.
Wow.
I
Some of
wanted
the
to
other
watch
films
All
that
of Us
people will probably be
Strangers.
confused aren't on here. All of Us Strangers.
Yeah, I missed that one.
Was one that has a lot of
Master
gets a lot of
Gardener?
notoriety. It wasn't referenced. A lot of films that only got
Is that you,
one
Chandler?
appearance on a list.
That's how you know I feel
Color
conflicted
Purple, a
about
good
Beau's
film I think you
Afraid
guys
that
should
I
watch,
Took
but-
Paul out of the top 10 at the last second.
Traitor.
I'm a Schrader trader.
I
I do love me a film about horticulture.
So how do we feel about our top 10?
Yeah, so
together.
yeah, that's thank you for the segue, Sanj. This is our quote unquote official
it's good.
aggregate top 10 for the split take. Best of the year.
Just the right amount of cringe in this list.
Yeah. The skin
I
of the
mean,
ring.
so obviously if we're starting the discussion of what should be changed if we
Don't you
wanted
do
to
it?
speak to that, obviously there's one
I'm
film on here that
conveniently
is not
P-voices.
from this year. It's
Don't
just
you do it.
literally not this year. It's not a film from this year. It was not released this year.
It literally
It
was.
was not
I'm
by every metric we run the year release by, which is
I'm getting
when it
No.
becomes
Need your
publicly available to
defense.
others.
Well, yes.
Wouldn't it be a 2022 film? I mean, I don't understand.
I don't want to.
You watched it
about
in
this for-
2022.
I don't want to walk.
We
I
can have this
refuse
argument at
to
the end of the show.
Comment on this.
Okay. Well, I will just say
So Chandler refuses to comment on it. Okay, I wasn't part of any. of it.
if we're going with a simple
discussions.
majority, I feel like there could be votes to kick it off the top 10.
True.
Could be.
True.
I don't want to. Honestly, I'm really happy
I
with
wouldn't
this
vote
list.
for it.
This
We get the
top
poster
10,
boost.
I'm quite frankly pretty happy with.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only ones I would consider like moving off are the honorable mentions. But I don't know if we even want if you're even talking about those.
They're not even technically on the list. I mean,
Yeah,
we could,
I feel like the list is pretty.
Yeah, they were
solid.
more
slice
just
them
like
if we
ones that barely almost made it that I thought were worthy of discussion. That
I think
I
we
brought
should
in. The
add
real
honorable
important is the
mentions
10.
'cause I want to see Blackberry.
Yeah. No, I like the
What did he
honorable
say?
mentions.
I said I would like to leave the honorable mentions on because I want to see Black.
Well, I'm saying, are those the honorable mentions we like?
Spider-Man is probably the one I would say. No
John-
to, but that's
I'm-
fine. I feel like that should be John Wick.
I agree, but
I think Spider-Man's a much stronger film than John Wick.
I feel like John Wick was more
across
an
the board.
event.
I like John Wick more. John Wick 4 was like, I love that movie. It's probably the most entertaining movie I had of the year. But Spider-Man, I think across the board is just a better film in terms of.
But think about the
character,
history in your
pacing,
life,
everything.
Jacob. Don't you remember John Wick March? Where you saw
I
it
guess
3 times, you got the Steelbook.
Spider-Verse
you
is
watched
in
it again.
3 top 10s,
I suppose.
so it should stay. Yeah, Dead Reckoning could be on there for
Remember
for DJ.
Wario was in John Wick 4?
Quite frankly, yeah, the only
Mhm.
film on there that I disagree with is Blackberry, but that's just me.
Anti-Canadian.
Damn.
Yeah, and you can see here that everyone else disagrees with you, or
or
agrees with you, Jacob.
Bosh.
And
Oh,
it's just
I
this.
missed it.
It's this motherfucker right here that
Well-
brought it to be discussed.
You know,
Nirvana
I mean, if it
Band.
weren't, if he didn't put it at 4, then it would have been what? Would it have
Look,
been?
I'm
Iron
happy
Claw?
letting
Claw
it-
would have slid in.
I'm happy letting it stay in the honorable mentions just because it is, smaller filmmaker, and I like, pointing people towards filmmakers that, it is deserving. It is a good movie. It is a unique film, and I suppose
Some might even say it's better.
I
than
just don't-
Social
yeah.
Network. I don't.
I mean, you
I'm
could.
not one of
Okay.
them.
It would break my
Someone
heart
might probably, though.
to take Skinamarink off 10. Well, I guess there's 2 of us having top 10.
I'm not.
I'm not. I refuse to entertain the notion that it could ever leave.
Okay.
So don't even.
Because I was going to say,
well,
Awesome.
because
fortunately,
Mission
you don't need
Impossible
to entertain
is.
it. If all of us,
It's immortalized.
if
The
all
only
of us
way I would
entertain
say-
it,
which I enjoy.
I'm fine keeping it in. The only way I would say we remove it is if we wanted to push towards a
Honorable mention.
making it 3 or more mentions is the requirement. That'd be the only way that it would be removed,
Because
in my opinion.
I
But I don't
think
even think we do that.
Mission Impossible you could argue it should be mentioned because it's so high on DJ's list.
Yeah. Like if you go by just points, it should be honorable mention number 3.
I will also say that for simplicity's sake, I had everyone submit just their top 20. I think this would be a rather different list if we took our entire rankings. And part of my rationale for everyone just submitting their top 20 is that it's a lot easier to rank 20 movies than it is to rank, if we all saw 50 movies. Because when you get down to like the end of that list, you're not exactly sure where it gets harder to kind of visualize everything in order. So 20, I felt was like we could be reasonably sure this is kind of the order that we think these movies are in. Even then, it's pretty hard. But like if we included the numbers, the rankings from all of our lists, I just have to say, Nick and I, if we were to rank Skinamarink, it would just tank that
Well,
score.
same here.
Because it would be like down in, for me, since I watched 60 plus movies, it would not have even garnered a mention. So
I think if it included all of our lists, we would have to move to ranking it based on average.
Yeah.
Because I think it would just become because the unfortunate thing, Jacob, is if we had it on our list, all it would do was give it 2 points, thus moving it to number 6. Because everything 10th, any placement 10 and below gets a
that
point.
system wouldn't.
So this
have worked out.
system wouldn't work for Skinamarink. If it were average, which I didn't average anything that only had 2 or 1 because that just ruins all the averages. But I mean, it would still be high anyways.
Anyway, regardless, we're just, I feel like just circling around. In fact,
I think we're
this
all.
is- this
I'm
is
happy
pretty
with locking
solid.
in the list.
Yeah.
I think the list is. I'm happy with the list.
Yeah, I like the
It's
list.
got some personality to it. There's obviously like you can't include everything. There's a lot of great stuff, and we're
Yeah.
always gonna like be
I'll
leaving
stop
off
being. I'll
things.
stop being a dick.
Oh, I
think
won't.
that was
When I
funny.
publish this online, the 2022 is going back.
Oh
on.
yeah. Oh, Jacob's gonna move BlackBerry to 10
It's gonna be like image
Yeah,
left.
well,
for
I'll,
the publication.
I'll clip out the
Media
audio
loss.
from like us saying different movies, and I'll just make it so we discuss a completely different film other than Skinamarink.
I'm gonna dox Jacob though, just because I think it's funny. There are hidden politics behind this list. So Jacob wanted to know if Skinamarink made the list. So I revealed it to him, and there was a brief discussion of if we wanted to include 11, so that there was a true 10 plus 1.
That would be funny.
And I said sure, but it would be Blackberry, and he dropped that idea entirely.
Wow.
my
He tried to
God.
ratio both of us.
Oh my God.
We're
So
stronger
it
together.
got double. It got double ratioed to the point of being included in the list.
I don't care if
I just find it,
But I think that was too funny to
I find
not.
it funny that my
That
number
was kind of
4 BlackBerry propelled it to honorable mention, and DJ's number 2 Mission Impossible had no effect.
it's because I didn't see
Yeah,
it.
but it had more. I mean, everyone had it on their list. So like,
And I didn't
Yeah,
see
if
it.
I had put Mission Impossible in there, or even
Mission
Jacob put it in
Impossible for
there, it would have
me
been
is
included.
at number 34.
Oh,
Yeah, for me, I
Napoleon
mean,
and
we can check.
Champions.
It's low.
Mine's at 45.
I think it's in the teens for me.
Skinamarink's at 53 for me last year. How you feel? about
Skinamarink isn't on this
I
list.
haven't seen
Skinamarink is
it
N/A
Last
on this
year.
list
Last year.
because it is a 2022 film. But
It's literally not.
Mission Impossible is 29 for me,
Damn.
right below Wonka.
Ethan,
That's not
you
bad.
need to put it
Come
above
with
Wonka.
me.
Yeah. Ethan, we gotta make the top 10.
You know.
Ethan.
Okay.
use
Yeah,
the seasoned control camera.
The film is not from.
This may come back to bite me as much as it may come back to hurt me. I'm saying this now for all future end of the year episodes. We are going by however Letterboxd has listed the film. So the year of release listed on Letterboxd is the official how we decide
That
things
is
from
it.
now on in the future.
That is it.
That's
Okay.
dangerous.
I did-
will be talking about
yeah,
dangerous.
it's dangerous.
Perfect Days next year.
I like it.
That will be the one exception since
Living
you
on
know,
the edge.
we had this issue.
Perfect Days is a 2024 film, so we're good.
It's not. Just as
If I had to
But
put
it
it is
became
listed
Perfect
Days
nowhere as a 2024 movie. Nowhere.
I would put Perfect Days between Oppenheimer and Blackberry. It's number 4.
See,
Damn.
so it would have made our list here, and Skinamarink would have been gone. So if anything, this list is anti-Semitic. Goodbye. Episode's done.
True.
He couldn't. He
Is
couldn't.
it actually
he
done?
couldn't
Are we
break the
done?
skin.
No, I don't know. Is there any
Was
other,
there
any other
anything
final
else?
comments?
Team.
In the cinematic union of Blackberry and Skinamarink.
Does anyone have any
The
closing
union
thoughts
of the
about?
two towers.
Does anyone have any closing thoughts about the year of film for 2022 through 2024?
Hope it gets
A
better,
great
man.
film we did not mention was a little movie that Nick worked on called Love in Zion National, a Zion Park romance,
Oh, that was actually a really good film.
which is apparently
That's actually the
title.
worst film of the year on my list, below the Charlie Day directing debut and Five Nights at Freddy's. We did not
We didn't even talk
mention
about
Five Nights at
FNAF.
Freddy's either.
But great watch.
Oh man.
Go see
or
it.
the Haunted Mansion remake, or Indiana
Forgot that came out.
Jones.
Kind of cringe. We didn't
I
talk
forgot
about
that came out
Asteroid
too.
City, but I guess.
Jeez.
Yeah, let's not talk about any of that. All right. Seriously,
And
though,
Bottoms,
any
dear
final
God,
thoughts
Bottoms
from people?
kill me.
I'm good. I think it was a solid
I
year.
think this is a good year in film. I guess we agree. DJ, I don't agree with
Sorry.
DJ's sentiment. I think this is a great year. I think this is one of the better years that I have tracked my filmmaking diary in. I think it is a top heavy year though, in my opinion, but I think the top is very large.
Yeah. It's
There's
no
like 8 or
2019.
9 excellent
No.
films. No,
Nothing will ever
definitely.
top 2019.
Few years are.
Yeah.
What do we have to look for this
2019 was
year?
good.
Dune 2 and a new Michael Lee movie. That's about it. Probably won't
I'm
be
watching
done
Dune
next
2
year.
in 8 hours. I'm gonna come, dude.
Ooh.
All right. Well, I feel like that was pretty successful. We've kept this recording relatively
Under
short,
2
and I'm
hours.
probably going to cut out some stuff.
Where we
I think
at?
we're about
So,
2 hours of
This
actually
was
recording.
great.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone, so much, and particularly thank you for Nick for doing the aggregate list. And
Yeah, that was a better
Thank you,
format
Nick.
for
No
sure.
way better.
We should
Glad
make
to
that
help,
little
glad to
graphic that
That's what we do
Nosh
all of our
made.
years with this. Let's
Yeah.
go back
Oh
and
yeah,
do
there'll be
2021.
graphics.
Go.
I'll make a graphic of everyone's individual top 10, and we'll have some stuff you can share out if you want. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Again, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know your favorite films of 2023. What have you thought of the year overall? Anything we missed? Anything you would have done differently? any suggestions for the podcast. If you like this format, or if you have any like additional, like how we could improve this particular clusterfuck of 5 of us talking about movies. But yeah, once again, thank you so much for watching.
And if your take was split, email Jacob personally about it. So
Personally,
Jacob's personal email is open. Send him all the reasons why this list sucked.
Send
personally.
a letter to his address at 575.